The FNRad Snowboard Podcast is presented by FlowJoy Water. Burton Snowboards supports FNRad, and I couldn't be more stoked. I'm riding my smooth operator the most these days, but all this custom talk has me wanting to ride one again. It's the Burton Custom's 30-year anniversary this year, and it's safe to say the best-selling board on the planet is still the landing place of all the best Burton innovation and tech. If you live in the Lower Mainland, be sure to drop by the new Burton flagship store at 4th and Burrard in Vancouver and grab yourself a Burton Custom. Hey listeners, this one's for you. Upline Brewing is beer for snowboarders by longtime Pacific Northwest shredder and FNRad listener Carl Montoya, who started Upline so you can crack a cold one anytime. No buzz, no slowdown, just good vibes. Unlike most NA beers, these actually taste legit, and they're brewed with adaptogens for a mellow uplift. The Steezy Golden Lager and Crushin' IPA come in at just 25 and 50 calories and feature artwork from local legends like Quincy Quigg. Have one at lunch, grab another lap, hit the after party, and still wake up for first chair or the bank slalom podium. Drinking regular beers, toss some Uplines into the lineup. The natural electrolytes help you stay hydrated and keep crushing. FNRad listeners score 15% off at uplinebrewing.com with code FNRAD, or set up a subscription, save more, and never run out. Upline Brewing, brewed to adapt, crafted to elevate. Fixed bindings are now guaranteed for life. The new Block 5s are a perfect blend of performance and simplicity. I can adjust the straps on the fly without tools, and they're consistently comfortable and easy to get into and out of. All the new fixed bindings look and ride incredibly, so go buy fixed bindings today at your local fixed dealer or check out fixedbindingco.com. Bluebird Coffee Tuning and Rentals in Squamish, BC is the coolest new stop just 20 seconds off the Sea to Sky Highway on your way to Whistler. Drop in for the world's best cup of coffee, killer smoothies, and a true local vibe born out of 90s snowboard culture and music. They offer performance ski and snowboard tunes with state-of-the-art equipment. They've got premium rental fleets of Jones, Solomon, Libtech, and Burton, including Burton Step-Ons. And if you haven't gotten yourself one yet, Bluebird will even sell you a rad power bike. These bikes are so fun. For a blend of expert knowledge, convenience, and a lot of charm, stop in and say hi to Bluebird, the raddest mandatory new stop on your way to Whistler. Lock in and let go with Anon's magnetic face mask integration, built to keep you seamlessly covered from the elements, and Magnatech quick lens change technology that makes swapping lenses effortless even with gloves or mitts on. Enhance contrast and clarity with perceived lenses and get the most accurate perception of the surrounding environment regardless of light and weather conditions. Clarity starts where distraction ends. Full face coverage, complete presence. Check out Anon's helmets, goggles, and MFI face masks at an Anon dealer near you or at anonoptics.com. Support also comes from the Pro Standard. Ken Achenbach has done it again with the push-button quick release for step-on bindings. Get them at prostandard.com before they sell out. Pacific Border, Vancouver's premium snow skate and surf shop on West 4th Avenue. Check out pacificborder.com. And 1910, the collaborative artworks of Jamie Lynn and Scof, two friends on a creative journey together, bonded by their love of art, music, and snowboarding. Go to the number 9teen10.com for their latest collection. We need to thank our friends at Mount Seymour, Grouse Mountain, and Cypress Mountain for their continued support of FNRad, as well as Essential Toothpaste Tabs. I love them, I use them, go buy them today. Paul Fidrych was the director of hardgoods product management for Burton during snowboarding's golden era. Paul oversaw production of the Brushie trouts, Terje swords, and was a key player in the development of the Burton Custom. And this year, the Burton Custom turned 30, and the story behind its development highlights a commitment to the progression of materials, building techniques, art, and the culture of snowboarding itself. The Custom was a catalyst for change, and in no small way that change was driven by Paul's engineering sensibility and his direct communication with some of the best snowboarders in the world at the time, including people like Craig Kelly, Bryan Iguchi, Victoria Jalous, and Jason Brown. Paul was also a facilitator at Windell's summer camp on Mount Hood the year I went there in 1991. Paul's life in snowboarding has benefited us all, and I'm excited to bring you this interview from his chalet in Whistler that starts with his first skateboard.
So this was probably 73, 74, and the deck itself was probably hardly even shaped, you know?
Right.
And it had metal wheels, looked like right out of a, remember when roller skates used to have those metal wheels?
Totally.
It was $4. And I bought it with I had a paper route, of course.
Sick.
And it did not roll at all. If there was even the slightest pebble, you're off, you're toast.
It only would roll, like I remember having the metal wheels on the roller skates from some sort of a garage sale or something. They were old.
Yeah.
They only rolled on like super smooth concrete in your basement.
That's right.
And at that point they rolled too much, then you fell, you got hurt.
Absolutely.
But out in the world they did not go.
I can't believe I got through that period, but everyone was getting the next round with clay wheels, and there was a board called the Hot Foot, and that was $10 at Kmart, and I saved up for that. And everyone in the neighborhood had that one. Super small, it was probably 5 inches wide, very narrow. But they rolled. Clay wheels were great. And everyone was excited. They were, just skating around, mostly going down hills, And, maybe you set some cups up and you did some slalom or whatever. And almost overnight, everyone stopped riding. It was the strangest thing. So it was very much a fad. But a few people, like myself, I went to the next level, and I found a board. The next one up at Kmart was probably $20 with urethane wheels and plastic deck, right? But it did have a kicktail on it, which I thought was so cool. And so started skating that, and I was pretty much by myself until junior high. I saw 2 other dudes that had skateboards, and I was so excited. So at that point, you're getting most of your information from, there was no internet, of course. And so there was magazines, right? And the magazine that I read was called Wild World of Skateboarding.
Wild. And
the reason I read that one is because it had great distribution. I'd go to the grocery store with my mom.
Yep.
And there it was, right? So that's where you'd study these images forever. You go page by page, just, oh my God, look at this, and it was all the legends there, right? So, Lonnie Toft and, Tony Alva and all those guys. And then the mail order guys would have one page, all the stuff, real tiny,
Yeah.
And you're just dreaming, okay, oh gosh, if I could only get those Sims wheels, right? And so you're in there just trying to figure out, okay, how can I get enough money? How could I save enough to eventually get like a board that worked? And eventually I did. And probably about 3 or 4 guys skated well. And we all had good decks, and we started doing ramps, of course. Now, this was Allentown, Pennsylvania, and we didn't really have much of a scene. So, one dude had a ramp in his backyard, and so we'd all go there, right? And for a period, it was the greatest thing ever. And then, out of nowhere, all the ramps were gone. And again, that was an insurance thing. I don't know what happened, if it was real or not, but the parents or whatever, oh my God, someone's going to get hurt, and I'm going to be liable. And all the ramps are just done. And so by 8th or 9th grade, there was nowhere to skate. And it was over. And so that was 79. And so that was it for me. I pretty much had to there was nowhere to skate.
Right.
The whole thing just was dead. So I really got into skiing, though. I love the mountains. And we had a bunch of small hills in Pennsylvania, 500 vertical feet, And I just loved going. I loved snow. I loved the whole thing. But I do remember my first time seeing a snowboard, which was in that magazine. I think it was Lonnie Toft in that yellow Sims board.
Yep.
And I said, oh my God, this is it. I mean, it's skateboarding and it's snow.
Yeah, Tom Sims knew how to brand stuff. And yeah, even still to this day, that ad is burned in my
I was just dreaming of it.
Yeah.
But no one else was doing it around me. And, there was nowhere to do it per se.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny, like listen to Jamie Meiselman, who was on with you a couple months ago. In New Jersey, he had a little scene, right?
Yeah.
And so that, if you have a little scene, then that just, builds.
Totally.
And we didn't have one there. We were all just skiers at that time. And so I ended up going to college and at Wilkes University in Pennsylvania as an engineering student. And, somehow, again, through the ski magazines, started getting the Burton catalogs.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm going, all right, this is, but you couldn't do it anywhere.
So you've never seen one in real life, but
Never.
You're getting the catalogs.
I'm getting the catalogs, and
amazing.
I just reading them.
Yeah.
But I was very much into school because I worked so hard, and I'm going, all right, I'm going to get through school. And again, there was no scene there at all, right? So when I graduated in '86, I moved to Boston, and there was a small hill called Blue Hills. And it was probably 250 vertical feet. It's right in Boston, like almost within 128.
Yeah.
And I heard that they allowed snowboarding, so I went.
In '86, that's early.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that's dope.
So and they had these funkies, they were called, and I never saw them again. But it's a brand. I think they're out of Italy. And me and my friend went. And we went right after our work, and we rode until they kicked us off the hill that night.
Rad.
And that was it. I threw my skis away. I never put them back on. I went right out, and I had those Burton catalogs. And so Burton was so good at, here's the dealer locator. Now, it's kind of funny because growing up skating, I was a Sims guy. Sims snake wheels, the best, right? So
Sims Fat Cats.
Yeah, everything, right? So... But it was very hard to get Sims. And Burton stuff was so prevalent. So I went to the store, bought it, and working as a design engineer, I would get off of work, and then I would go to Neshoba Valley, which was another small area, and just ride every night, like as much as I could. And just,
is there fins on the thing you're riding in '86?
So I had the '87 model, I think. Again, the years are the years of Burton years are interesting. That was the Cruiser.
The Cruiser, right?
And the year before it had the removable fin.
Yep.
But this had the side things you could. It didn't have a middle skeg, sorry, but it had the fins on the side.
Yeah.
Yes, that you could
just take them off,
unbolt them.
So it had a swallowtail as well.
Yeah, swallowtail. That's right. It had no center. But it had the two little things that they were screwed on.
It was like
beveled,
concave or something. Yeah, like lot, right?
A lot. Yeah. I mean, you're doing this. It was almost impossible to catch your toe edge.
Yeah.
But it worked.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I just rode, and then I started going to Vermont and Sugarbush, Vermont, and the first time they allowed snowboarding was the next year. And we had to get certified, of course, pass a test. At that time, I was riding, I think, so that was probably I still riding the Burton, but then the next year I got a freestyle, Kemper Freestyle, which was the green one, which was way ahead of its time.
The Lucky Charms, yeah.
Yeah, it actually had the back, it had it wasn't a twin tip, but you could actually ride fakie.
It had really good kick.
It was awesome. Fakie, I mean, yeah. So I was riding that real hard, and it was funny because I was this design engineer. I worked in R&D at Polaroid in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We were working on digital cameras.
Whoa.
We were
in the mid 80s.
Yes.
Late 80s.
Yeah, this was 87-ish.
Damn,
80, yeah. Man. So, and we had the world's first megapixel sensor.
Yeah.
And so I was a design engineer. I actually did all the digital design of the cameras, but we were in R&D, strict R&D. I mean, we're up there, you know, I was with all these super smart guys. I don't know how I got in, but I would leave on Friday at early, and I'd drive to Vermont, and I'd get there. It was a 4-hour drive, and I'd get there in time to get to the shop. There was a shop called Clearwater Sports. They were the only snowboard shop in Sugarbush, to go hang out with dudes, right? And then I would ride Saturday and Sunday, and then I'd get up Monday morning and I'd drive to work. So I did this for years. And it was funny because my friend gave me some great advice. She said, don't push your chair in when you leave on Fridays because they know you left. Keep it out. Because I would be leaving at 2 o'clock on a Friday to get up just to hang out at the shop.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this earlier, but one of the things that was a real big culture thing was the shops, right? We'd all go to the shops and hang out and watch the videos and talk about, you know, the latest stuff going on and whatever. And I mean, we spent hours there.
Yeah.
And you know, at the same time, I think I worked a little bit for them, you know, didn't get paid. I was like, oh, some guy dropped off. Can you wax this? Yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, no problem.
Right.
You know,
you're an engineer at Polaroid, but on the moonlighting as a wax
I was
guy.
trying so hard to not be that. I was like, I want to just, And so I kind of had this double life going, and it was great. So, you know, as happens, you know, as these newer brands started coming up, you know, they would come to the shops and they go, oh, you know, hey, we got this, you know, we're a new brand, and do you have any riders, you know, or people that we could give stuff to? And so the shop that I was with, which was Clearwater, it was myself and another guy, and we were probably, you know, I don't know, 25 years old riders or something like that. And the other kids were 13.
Kids. Yeah.
Kids.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they're going, oh, these guys would probably be able to say, hey, come over to the shop and maybe try this board or buy this board. So they, you know, so I remember Nitro came in and Kemper came in. And so, you know, like, okay, which one do you want? Well, one guy took Nitro and I took Kemper. And so I was riding for Kemper. You know, again, it was a shop sponsorship, but
yeah.
I wasn't looking to try to be a pro snowboarder or anything. I knew I wasn't good enough for that. But at the same time, it was just nice to it was really nice to be able to say, okay, I'm gonna represent you guys and just be part of the whole thing.
Testing next year's stuff was always such an honor. It felt like you're on the hill, and people, you mentioned this earlier, people on the hill would be curious about gear. Like, what are those bindings? What board is that? Where did that come from? And if you had next year's stuff, it was just a great feeling. It
was also cool because I was a huge tinkerer, and we all were back then. Mm-hmm. I mean, people don't realize this. Like, kids don't realize this today. We were all screwing with our boots, screwing with our bindings, making our boards stay together.
Yeah,
right. Because they're all blowing apart.
Yeah.
And so had our, oh, you know, I got this little thing on the back of my heel that you can, you know, so you don't get heel lift, and you're you know, putting them in the back of the Sorels, you know, oh, does it work? Yeah, cool, whatever. But I ground it down so that you could, you know, tweak better, you know, like stupid stuff like that. But it was such a fun time period, and it was great too because there was such a small group. Like, everyone knew everybody, right? So you go to the mountain and everyone, you say, oh yeah, that's
you
whatever.
Go to a different mountain and you just like look around. Oh, they're the snowboarders, and then you just meet up,
go hang out with them.
That was it.
It was great.
Yeah,
and so, and it was, you know, Vermont. I mean, we definitely had good athletes there, and you know, so. On the team, it wasn't much of a team because that was a thing too.
Sure, yeah,
because we weren't teams.
Yeah.
We were not a team.
Yeah.
But it was the Huffman brothers, and it was the Seths. And it was Ollie Glay.
Holy shit!
I know, it's crazy.
That is nuts.
And myself and this other guy named Wolf, who was the older guys, right?
Yeah. I still remember the older guys. Like one in particular, when we went to Horseshoe Valley, which was like a 4-hour drive from our house in Sudbury. The guy was in a one-piece camper suit. He was wearing riding camper bindings and board and the gloves. And we were like, is that, the first sponsored rider? But no, he was like 23 years old, so he had a job,
right,
and he could buy whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
Whereas we had to beg our parents,
right,
get one piece at a time, trade it amongst ourselves. And I remember saying like, oh yeah, that old guy. And I'm talking about a guy who's like 25 maybe at
right,
the most.
Right.
At the most.
Right.
But yeah, and those kids that you just mentioned would have been kids.
Oh, they were real. I mean, Lucas was so tiny, so small. But it was funny too, because we would do these crazy things, like I'll jump in a van and just drive down the US Open, right? With no adult supervision, no nothing.
None.
And there was no cell phones, no anything. You didn't know, like, how did we even get back? I mean, everyone was just running around.
Yeah.
And the person at the shop, he drove the van down and he drove us back.
That's it.
And I mean, it was crazy, but it was super fun times.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
I went from summer camp that my mom had gone to, where there's like a schedule, like you get up at 6 a.m. and you go in the freezing cold water, and then you sing some songs, and then you all have breakfast together, and then 2-3 years later, I'm at Windell's, and you can't tell a counselor from a camper we could have left and no one would have known. There was no accounting.
No.
And it didn't feel dangerous. It felt exciting, but it also felt like I don't want my parents to know what is going on.
It was free. I mean, it was
totally free.
Yeah. So my first camp experience was 1990.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, we'd all seen the videos, Mount Hood, right?
Totally.
And so I said, I'm gonna go to summer camp this year. And so I think I called Camp of Champions and I called Windell's, which was called Shred the World that year.
Oh, Shred the World. I remember the little quarter-page ad.
Yes. And
Shred
so
the World.
Tim answered.
No way.
And so I could just tell from his voice. I was like, he could use me to come to this camp. I'll just leave it at that. I think.
Sure.
So because there's probably 5 campers or 6 campers. So anyway, I went out there, and every camper was probably 14.
Yep.
And I was mid-20s.
Sure.
I mean, I didn't give a crap. I was having the best time ever.
Right.
And thinking about it then, I don't think they treated me like a dude. I guess this is a guy in a camp.
I have absolutely no idea how old Chris Pappas is, but he picked us up so this is 91. He took Tim's Astro van or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Bullet. Maybe it was the Bullet van. It was some sort of white van.
Yeah.
And picked like 4 or 5 of us up. One person got the front seat beside him. The rest of us were on a mattress in the back with our gear around us.
Oh yeah.
Bouncing up the road. I'd never seen a mountain before in my life. I'm going, where the hell are we? Look at this place. It's amazing.
Right.
But I couldn't tell you if, like, for any amount of money, I couldn't have told you how old the guy was. Whether he was 25 or 19 or 15 like us.
We were all just having the greatest. We were all experiencing snowboarding together.
Yeah.
And some at different levels only because you had started more earlier.
Sure.
So.
Yep.
Oh, like for instance, the Pappas brothers, they started a couple years before us. And
Sure.
Of course, they were talented.
Yep.
But, and Tim had also been doing it a lot longer. Then us, we're almost discovering it. And you had a video to watch, a couple videos, but that was about it.
That was it.
So when you went to camp, it just kind of blew your mind because you could learn so many tricks in one day.
Yeah.
Or, even just how to properly carve.
I hadn't done anything but a fish turn before that. I'd never, I'd passed the test for, if you can ride at this resort by just showing I could stop. I could stop, kind of.
Yes.
But I could also do a backflip because I'm from a place where we're just going down a straight hill at a jump and then flipping over and landing flat on our feet in the flats. So I'm like, I'm going to get sponsored at this spot. I've never done a turn in my life.
Oh, it's funny.
Yeah, and the first day I'm in the beginner group because they're like, "Can you turn?" And I'm like, "Well, what good is that?
Right.
Well, you don't need a turn."
Well, I have a similar experience. So, well, first of all, there was more pros than there were campers.
Yeah, that makes total
and
sense.
it was the Pappas brothers, and so Chris Pappas taught me how to carve. So shout out to Chris Pappas.
Sick.
And Jason Ford was there,
Rad.
and Lisa Vincingera,
Sick.
and Todd Richards, and
Oh my
Delaney,
God.
Kevin
Wow.
Delaney,
Yeah.
and a bunch of others. I'm
Scott
sure
Downey would have been there.
Yeah, they were. The whole Sims team were there.
Yeah.
So, and that was the thing. It was almost a Sims camp, pretty much. We all, because that was probably the last year they were really all together in
Right, because
1990.
Tim hadn't gone to Checker Pig yet.
No, so
right.
what happened was, so a couple things. First of all, so all of us just were kind of hanging out, and if you ever been to government camp, especially then though, you're just sitting in like the Huckleberry was the inn, and there was us and High Cascade at the time, and that was a very small camp too. And so you're with each other all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, just hanging out, doing whatever, and going skateboarding or just doing stupid stuff after getting off the hill. But we learned a lot there, and we had the best time. And it was pretty funny because it was 4th of July, and we all went to Hood River, and Tim had gotten a call, and he got off, and then that was the day that the Sims team kind of blew up, and all the Sims guys were down there. And I remember, because these guys were probably younger than me, and it wasn't, you looked up to them as a rider, of course, but at the same time they were just regular people, and you heard them going, "Oh my God, what am I gonna do now?" Right. That was the first real thing that I saw in snowboarding, it was really a bummer for me, because I knew I was going back to my job, and I knew when these guys were going, "What are we going to do?"
So what was the call like that?
It was a call from, probably Dorfman or whatever.
Yeah.
And saying, okay, I remember Tim saying they're going to keep Mini Shred and they're going to keep Kidwell. And that was it. This is, again, this is 40 years ago, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So don't, but this is what I heard.
Yeah.
They were all sitting down there, and and then afterward, they're all super bummed going, "What are we going to do?" Right. And so that was, I think, a turning point in snowboarding too, because we all looked up to Sims. We all thought Sims was great.
So I came into it late enough to have not known that era. So I was fascinated to learn it. I think I learned it mostly from Brad Stewart at first, that he was like, "Dude, Burton were hilarious. They would show up in speed suits. They didn't have Jake was like railing against freestyle openly, like publicly, like it's racing's where it's at." And like, Craig leaving, he said it barely even got on nobody talked about it, because you've got Todd Richards, you got Kidwell, you got Palmer, you've got everyone, you've got Roach and 50 other guys, Windell, and so many people. Jacoby's still on the team at that point. Craig leaving was like not that big a deal because they were crushing it so hard.
And it was interesting too, because one of the reasons I went to Kemper was because they had a freestyle board.
Yeah, it was called the Freestyle.
And it was awesome.
What a rad name.
And it was so much
board.
ahead of the Burton stuff at the time.
Yep.
So it was such a turning point in the industry when you think about it. You had these really cool brands. You had Sims, you had Kemper. Of course, you had others starting to come up. And Burton was definitely behind. And we've all heard the story about how Craig came in and really changed things there. And but for me, I was still on Kemper, and I was having the greatest time, and I thought it was awesome. And so I parlayed, after I went to camp for 2 weeks. I stayed an extra week. I said, "Hey, Tim, can I stay an extra week?" He's like, "Thank God, please." Oh, and here's another story, which I just found out. So Jamie Mosselman, who's a good friend of mine, a couple things. I saw on this, I didn't even know these things existed, this vintage snowboard, old school snowboarder Facebook groups or whatever.
Totally.
And there's a there's a magazine cover of me and the camp. I think I sent it to you.
Yeah.
So I was on the cover with Tim Windell and a few others. I didn't even know this thing existed. It was
That's
1990.
amazing.
It was
So
crazy.
It's not you on the snowboard, but
No, I was
you guys
standing
are-
there.
Yeah,
Next to Tim.
Yeah, and there's like some heavy hitters in that.
It was
photo.
funny
so
because it was
sick.
just, I didn't even know this thing existed, and it just pops
Yeah, I'd
up.
never seen that name of magazine before either.
It was just some Japanese magazine. So with that, this was just last week, I sent it to you and Jamie Meiselman, and Jamie says to me, "Oh yeah, I went to that camp. I didn't go. He was working as an intern for Transworld at the time.
Wow.
And we had
yeah.
totally forgotten that we'd met each other in 1990. But here's the thing, back then, there was such a small group of people snowboarding that we all eventually connected. You know,
Yes.
it's like somehow, some way, you know?
Yep.
Whereas, well, of course you were at Windell's camp when I was at Windell's camp. I mean, this is what happens, right?
Right.
Because the origin story goes all back to a very small amount of people, and we all pretty
Sure.
much knew each other, or you knew somebody who knew that guy. You know?
Totally.
So, and it was so different then. I remember this too, because Foster was there, and he had a bunch of gotcha clothing, and he said, "I need to get some shots of gotcha." So he grabs Todd Richards and said, "Hey, put these on," and they, shot for whatever, couple hours, and then Todd's riding on gotcha. That's how simple it was back then.
Yeah,
There was
totally.
no contract negotiation, whatever. No, there you go. Okay,
He's
all
on
right,
gotcha
Todd. There you
now.
go. And so it was just a different world. It was funny.
Remember the snowball fights? That happened while I was there.
Oh, okay.
It was like I think it's a tradition that started at maybe the year that I was there. I was maybe session 3 or something. And so they'd, last day, the campers from Windell's would have a snowball fight with the campers from High Cascade.
Yeah.
And it was, so even if you were at different camps, you're kind of at the same camp because you were kind of together.
Exactly.
Maybe you'd go over and try their features. They would come and hike the pipe. Like it was, 30 guys.
It was a lot more integrated in the early days
Yeah.
because we're all in Huckleberries, or all at their spot was right next to Huckleberries in Government Camp.
Yep.
When Tim moved down to Rhododendron, it became its own little deal. So,
But people would still come from High Cascade.
oh yeah,
skate
they come
the
and
ramp,
skate, right? Of course.
and hit the trampolines, and then
Yeah.
there were mountain bikes and trails and shit. Yeah, it was insane. You could have poached that camp and not been a camper and
Absolutely.
just showed up and been like,
Absolutely.
I'm a camper, I paid.
Oh, so okay,
Yeah.
so after I did the camp, so I said, okay, I want more. So
Yeah.
I had been working as an engineer at Polaroid, and you're basically, sitting at a desk designing, whatever, at a computer designing. Again, this is way before internet, CAD stuff, whatever. A lot of manual stuff, and it was cool because I was doing some cool stuff. But my heart was in snowboarding, so I called Tim up and I said, "Hey Tim, I want to work for you this summer," and he said, "I can't. I can't pay you." I said, "I'll work for free." He said, "Come on out."
Wow.
And so I said, "All I want is a lift ticket and room and board." He said, "Come on out." So I go to my boss. And we didn't have sabbaticals at that time. And I walk in and I said, "Hey, I want to take the summer off,
Yeah.
and I want to take a sabbatical." And they said, we don't have sabbaticals." And I said, "Well, then I quit." And then okay, well, we'll work something out.
We'll figure it out, whatever
Yeah.
a sabbatical is.
Yeah. So I had called Tim, and Tim was very enthusiastic to have someone come out work for him for nothing.
Yeah.
And I just wanted more,
Access to like the best half pipe in the world at that point.
Well, not just that. I was living a double life. I mean, I was, working 9 to 5 or whatever as an engineer, and then I'd run up to Vermont and I'd hang out with 13 and 14-year-old kids.
You're still doing that, right?
Yeah,
Right,
and
right.
so and then I had done 2 weeks out in Mount Hood, and I thought it was the greatest, and so I really wanted more.
Yep.
So, and the thing is too is that I wasn't looking to get, like sponsored or whatever. That was, and by the way, by that time, kids are getting way better. It was because I had a job. I mean, it wasn't that I needed money for a snowboard or equipment, but it was more of, I just really wanted to be part of it. I wanted to be more, right? I wanted more of it. So I go out there and basically it's like, all right, get to work, And so I was picking kids up at the airport. I was doing video work. I was doing teaching, and mostly low end, like guys beginning, whatever, learning how to carve kind of thing, that kind of stuff.
You were probably my teacher.
So maybe. And, so it was that kind of stuff, driving up, down back into the mountain. And it was awesome. And it was mayhem. It was mayhem.
Yeah, awesome mayhem. Yeah, now you're reminding me that, so we didn't do the coaching because that's where I met my friend Steve, was he could also do backflips. He was from Amherst, Massachusetts. And we both bonded over being like, this is bullshit, man. They're teaching us to turn. There's nowhere for me to turn. He's riding, a 200 vertical foot hill. I'm riding 60 vertical meters, which is the same, 180 feet.
Right.
I don't need to know how to carve.
And what's funny though is that we didn't know or care either at Tim's camp. We just wanted to make sure that everybody.
Nobody came looking for us. Nobody was like, "Hey, those two guys that are in the beginner just fucked off and went and built a jump over on the top deck."
I don't think we even did counts on who came up and came back. It was just like, who wants to go to the mountain today? And we would just drive up.
Yes.
And then someone would be like, I'm going to jump in whatever's car.
Right. I'm not going today. I hurt my leg, so I skipped one day. Then we went to the mall with Jimmy Scott. Like, that's not written down somewhere.
No one knew.
No, nobody knew.
God bless Tim. First of all, Tim, I love you. I mean, good friend of mine. I haven't seen him in years, but we always got along great. And, Tim, I was, I guess, kind of the professional of the group. So Tim put me in charge of, okay, you figure out, like, when people are going to show up, and how many people, like, do we need to go to the airport twice, or do we go once, or whatever?
Right.
Now you got to remember too, we had no cell phones, we had nothing, we had no internet to see if times are on time.
How do you even get everyone from the airport? I don't even understand how that works.
I would just go with the van or whatever, and then we'd walk out. I'd be looking for dudes with a snowboard bag.
Right, because people would show up from Ontario with a snowboard bag, and you're like, you High Cascade or Windell? I'm Windell.
That's it.
Okay, here we go.
I mean, it was mayhem.
It was mayhem. Yeah, like literally, so from a camper side, you get out of an airplane, you're really excited, you get your shit. And now someone says, get in the back of a van, and you're sitting on a mattress with a couple other people, and it all seems like, well, this is
and that's how it works.
Here we are. I'm kind of hungry. How do we get food?
Somehow we got it. We got it done.
It was fun. I'll tell you, there were no complaints from my side. I was like, this is insane and amazing.
I mean, behind the scenes, of course, there was mayhem, but there was also, I mean, we had kids, for instance, that they wanted to go home.
Okay.
They wanted to go home.
Yeah, I can.
We called their parents up. No, they're not coming home. You keep them there. What?
Yeah.
Okay. Your parents said they're not going to. You got to stay. I mean, this is what was happening in the background, and then of course we had injuries, and so people would get hurt, and we had no insurance information or whatever, and we're trying to take them, to the hospital or
I watched that happen. I said that to you over text. There was a girl first day in the beginner group with us, fell, broke her collarbone, sledded down to the Timberline office where the ambulance, they asked her, do you want us to call an ambulance? She's like, what are you talking about? I'm fucked up. Of course I want an ambulance. Ambulance comes up and says, we can't take her away to the hospital without someone securing this with a credit card. And so now whoever is our coach at that time is going like, do any of you kids have a credit card? And people are going, no. And the coach had to take their personal card out, put it in a machine so that this person could get taken to the hospital.
Yeah, you asked me about that, and I had to say, we had so many of those, I can't remember them. I mean, there was just so many little incidents. Because we had, as you know, that camp was full of people. There was just tons of kids, right? And again, anything could happen at any time, whether it be there on the skateboard ramp or whatever. But we made it. We made it out, and it was a great experience. It really was. And afterward, Tim asked me, "Hey, do you want to partner and do these things, with him?" So,
wow.
I thought about it long and hard. I came out to Colorado. We hung out and talked about it a lot. And at the end of the day, I decided not to do it. And probably because it was a real leap of faith. I did it for 3 months and it was awesome. But it was also on that hairy edge. And I don't know if doing it for full time, like how that would have been.
Right.
And I had a job. But I will say this, though. I owe Tim Windell a lot for helping me kind of see the light of life. Because when I had started school, it was all about getting a job, right? And then snowboarding was this thing that, you could be anything. You could do anything, right? And then you go out to see these pros, which you thought, okay, I saw my videos. They're just regular dudes, right?
Totally.
And they have this, Tim's struggling to figure out how to run a camp. And he's like, come on, Paul, help me out. Yeah. And he just opened me up to a world of like, anything is possible. You don't need to be this special person. You just need to have the fortitude and the passion.
Right. And the thing that I got from camp when I would go back, the last time I was there was a couple of years ago, and I saw the little campers going there. And I think I must have saw somebody fold their pant up, looking over at a coach, like, did the cuff a certain size, was looking at how to dress. And I remember being like, looking at campers and coaches, like, how do we say we're a snowboarder in the world? And that was coming back from camp to my small town. I was a completely changed person, right? I saw Nick Parada with his dreads. When he had his dreads, man, like I saw Nick Parada, for crying out loud. Like I was freaking the fuck out. And, Scott Downey and Kevin Delaney and Tim Windell, they're all just dudes like us. Mm-hmm. But they're entrepreneurs in this way that's, like Scott Downey's changing Sorel boots, like a Canadian staple.
Yep.
He's putting his name on these boots.
That's right.
And there's innovation going on, and you're hearing about these new companies that you've never heard of before, that maybe one is a Volcom,
Right.
And some are Radical.
It was
Airlines
a really
or
fun
Checker
time.
Pig or whatever. It was just so magical.
I mean, when I went in 90, Brad Stewart was there, and, he was kind of helping with the camp with Sims and also doing some, marketing work, whatever. And then, next thing you know, he's got Bonfire. And then next thing you know, after that, he's doing the Solomon thing.
Solomon, right.
So it was really cool time. And it showed me, it really opened the world up to me. And it was such a great experience. So thank you, Tim Windell, with that one. And overall, it was pretty cool because, oh, by the way, I was starstruck when Tony Alva came and skated the ramp. So that was amazing.
Not be?
That was amazing.
Alva, God.
Yeah. But and then from there, and that's how kind of the Burton thing happened. So my last year at camp, I had reached out to Chris Copley, who was the Vermont rep. I said, "Hey, Chris, I'm going to this camp, and would you, do you have a board or whatever? I could, because I'm gonna be out there with all these kids, whatever." He's like, "Oh yeah, sure, hook you up." I knew Chris because, again, the scene was so small.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you'd see each other, whatever. And he knew that I was, I think, at Kemper at the time. But again, I was just a regional nobody.
Totally.
Don't get the wrong way.
I
was just around at Kemper for a little bit because they gave me one. But the point being is that Chris was a really good dude, and so he gave me this board. And it was the first 3D.
What board was it? Like an Air 6-1?
Air 6-1.
Yeah.
And that was the first year of 3D, and everyone was looking at me and asking how that thing worked.
It was before 3D was available to the public,
That's right.
right?
That's right. And so that was awesome because, I mean, it's not that I felt special, but at the same time, people were going, "What is that?"
No,
what
of
is
course
that?
you feel special about something like that.
I mean, it was
completely different.
So then I came after the summer. I asked him, "Hey, do you want this back?" He said, "I want you to just keep it for the winter." And so I rode in the winter, and then the summer was coming up again, and I was going, "Okay, I already talked to Tim about, I'm not really I would obviously go back to work for the summer, but I couldn't ask my engineering guys again to take off another summer."
Right.
And so I called Chris up and I said, "Hey, Chris, if you," and this was not planned or at all. I just happened off the cuff. Ever hear any jobs up at Burton? Just let me know. And he goes, "I was just talking to head of something, HR or something, I don't know, whatever, and we need a snowboard product manager, and you'd be perfect. Hold on." And he just runs and he gets this guy, and I start talking to him on the phone.
Oh my God.
And I had an interview within like 2 days, and less than 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to Europe going to the European sales meeting for Burton.
Holy shit.
Being the snowboard product manager. It was crazy.
Oh my God.
It happened so quickly.
Had you kept up on what was going on with Burton? Like, did you know the line? Were you still getting the catalog?
Oh,
and kind
yeah, of
leafing
course.
through it and all that?
Yeah.
It was easier
It was
back
easy.
then to understand because it was like 3 board offerings.
There was
4
not
board
much
offerings.
going on with that. I had just spent a whole summer, the summer before, on 3D, so I knew all about that because I was on prototype bindings, whatever, and I was riding the boards because of Chris, and it was, look, again, no internet at the time.
Yeah.
We all looked at every catalog.
Truth. Yeah.
I mean, come on, there was, and you'd page through them, and it was a very simple line at the time, back then. So, 1993. Summer 93, like June, I started, and Burton was pretty small then. Had less than 50 people in the office. They had just moved to Burlington from southern Vermont, and they were growing, of course, but it was really still small. Everyone knew everybody. I mean, it was one of those things where the Christmas party, you exchange and you like, hey, I'm getting one for Keith. I'm getting one for
Secret
whatever.
Santa thing
Secret
is
Santa.
so easy.
Right. So, but the factory is also attached right to Burton.
Yes,
office.
I've been to the office, and I mean it's different now.
Now it's different. Now it's Craig's and whatever, but it used to be the snowboard factory.
That was the spot.
Yeah. So it was interesting because I didn't 100% know what a snowboard product manager was, or a product manager.
I still don't know.
So they bring me up there, and I had an interview with, all the head of R&D, head of products, head of soft goods. Jake wasn't there that day, but so I got the job, and then I went my first time. I went up there, whatever, and Jake said, "Oh, So, and of course you're like, oh, it's Jake Burton, right?
Yeah.
And I had met him once, on the hill. He's always very approachable.
Sick.
But he goes, oh, I was a snowboard product manager. That was my first job. And then he said, and if anyone asks if I ever have to sign anything now, what's your job? I always say product manager.
Sick.
And I'm going, oh boy. So, okay. I'm not taking over for Jay because I'm actually taking over for Andy Latz, who was the product manager at the time. And so then he goes, well, so the product manager is ultimately responsible for, that's what he told me.
Wow.
For everything.
Oh God.
So basically, and then he said, sink or swim. Don't fuck up.
Wow.
And that was it.
That was his first words to you as your boss.
Yep. And that was it. Yep.
And when he said "don't fuck up," is it like a nice guy saying it to you, or is it like?
Jake was very serious, even though he was funny as hell at times.
Yeah.
He was directly serious, and he meant it.
Damn.
And he told. I've heard that story. Many people had said the same thing. You know, they heard, that's what he tells people. Don't fuck up.
Don't fuck up.
And he meant it because he was, as you probably heard, he was very competitive, very passionate, of course. I mean, and very, at that time, quite a bit hands-on. So, but yeah, so they jumped right in, you know, you're okay. I'm the store product manager and I'm basically responsible for all the factories, production, sales with respect to if a board sells or not, the materials, if any problems, like if we have a big catastrophic, you know,
warranty
DLAMs,
issue,
whatever,
yeah,
warranties.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. If the team doesn't like it, I mean, you're responsible. You're ultimately responsible.
Damn.
So, and it was, I honestly didn't know what I was stepping into, but I was luckily, you know, I had a good team with me. The hard goods department was very small at the time. It was only boards, boots, and bindings, one product manager each. And then head of R&D, Dave Dodge. Paul Marovitz was the snowboard designer. And then JG, which you've heard a lot about. I'm sure.
I've met him. Yeah, I've met and talked with him.
Yeah, so JG at that time, which was, I was there from 93 to 2000, he was head of testing.
Testing.
Yes.
What a rad spot.
So
I want to be head of testing.
Now, it was pretty cool because he was, well, first of all, I love JG, and he was the guardian, you know? So, like, if you ever wanted to make a change, he hated change in some ways because he wanted to make sure that any change is better, you know, that it was proper. So he would either test it himself, and he also had a barrage of riders.
Yeah, he was super close with like
yes, but not just
tons of good people.
Not just the pros. These were these underground guys.
Yeah,
where you go, oh, I have this top sheet that I don't want anyone to see. Okay, I'll send it to this dude. You know, and we always had a rule, 30 days on snow, 30 days on snow. You had to get 30 days on snow to get anything approved.
Sick.
So he would know, okay, we're in the middle of summer. I have some guys in New Zealand. I'll send it down there and we'll get our time on snow. So yeah, it was a really, everyone was very, very passionate about snowboarding.
Yeah.
There was not dudes just walking around going, yeah, I don't know what is this?
Yeah.
Everyone loved snow at that time anyway. Mm-hmm. So it was really cool. It was also competitive because, you know, you had to know your shit, right? So if you're trying to say, hey, we have to change this board, you know, you couldn't just say that off the cuff, right? You know, you had to, if you wanted to make that change, you had to stand for it.
One thing that's burning in my mind, like, was Burton already 2 years ahead at that time, designing 2 years ahead? Like, when you come in 93, the product line that you're in charge of, is it 95 already, or is it sales for 94 and plus design on 95?
Production in 94.
Oof.
Development in 95.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also the marketing aspect, you'd work with the marketing department to get the catalog. You know, all that catalog copy starts with the product manager. The guys would come and tell you, okay, what's this board all about? Blah, 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 and talk about it. What's the tech? You know, this and that, whatever. And then they would go and write their fairy dust, like really awesome copy.
Totally.
Right? And then work with JDK was the outside agency.
Yep.
And they would do this amazing, you know, illustrations around it.
Totally.
So when I got there, so what was happening was the twins were being produced at that time, the Ouija boards.
The Ouija ones, yeah.
And Brushie's first board was being produced. Hawkins'
the
first
trout
board.
and the
The
sword.
trout.
These are like the most iconic collectible boards.
It's pretty funny because, well, first of all, I have not been a part of the snowboard industry for a long time, and I didn't really know much about this whole background of collectors and whatever.
Dude, there's some drama that's happened too. One of the guys that worked for Jake at Londonderry started making BB1s and selling them as new old stock, but just because he's like, I made them way back then, so me making them now the same way means they're the exact same board as then. People go, wait, no, you can't say that it's like, and selling them for like 10 grand because people are like, they're rare, but he's like making them. Anyways,
there was no thoughts of that. No thoughts of that at all back then.
Right,
You're just trying to make the best shit possible. And then every year make it much, much better. And remember, we were just starting. I mean, that was the first year of 3D. Was 93, 94 was the second. And we're still trying to figure out how to make sure the inserts were lined up properly.
Right.
You know? And we're making hundreds of thousands of boards, you know? So,
Yeah.
you know, that's where the NASA boards, if you ever heard of those, came from. That means not all stances available. So literally some of the triangles were not aligned.
No way.
And so you had to fill it with glue, and you'd sell it as a discounted board. It was called NASA.
And they'd stamp that on the bottom into the PTEX
it actually was printed on the top. It said not all NASA board, not all stances available. And that's we literally had to test every board. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that we don't think about today.
Right.
But every single one we had to test with a little triangle shape, you know. So yeah, it was crazy.
Because these are still hand built boards. I mean,
of course
they are still till this day.
Yes.
But like, yeah. So
I mean, the thing was, it was interesting because this was just in the wave of us figuring out and everyone figuring out how to make good quality product.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we were making a lot of it.
Yep.
So it was a lot of work because we had 4 factories at the time, 2 in Austria, 1 in Canada, and then the Vermont one. And each of them had their own idiosyncrasies, and it was they all had their own different processes. So it was a lot. I spent a lot of time in Austria working with the factories, and it was very interesting time. But it was really cool because every year was new. So I got there, and they were Dave Dodge, great engineer. He just had invented the flap ratchet, which completely changed bindings.
Totally.
So we had the prototypes, and remember back then there was no 3D printers.
Right.
You know, so none of that stuff was happening.
How are you making them back?
So I think we had SLAs, which were SLAs are very kind of similar, but they were plastic. They were almost like crackers. You could break them with your hand.
Oh.
So you could make a SLA of something, and you could see how it could maybe fit together. But then you would, otherwise you'd machine some parts, and some aluminum pieces and whatever and then you pay for a mold, right? So
freaking believable.
So yeah, so that slap ratchet was just coming out. The 3D, of course, was just,
Did anyone else invent the slap ratchet at the same time, or is
No, it was actually, so we were Burton was the first. And there was.
I remember the ratchet. It was very square.
It was
and really
very square.
big.
That's right. But you could only patent so much of it, and
right.
So
it only clicked like 1 or 2 clicks
right.
when you went each
the first
one.
generation.
You go like all the way up, and it could click, click.
Absolutely.
Click, click.
So the next version is pretty much exactly how it is today. To be honest.
Yeah.
But the patents were only on certain parts of it. So, if you ever see the release mechanism up top on every one, that's how they get away. That's different than the Burton patent. So that's why every slap ratchet that you see now, or ratchet that you see now, has the release up top.
Yeah, the thumb release versus the pull-up.
Yeah, it's versus the pull-up.
Right,
yeah.
Right, which is really nice. The pull-up is actually
really
way nice.
Yeah.
You just kind of grab the end of it and pull it up, and it comes off.
And for people
you
that...
could slap it off. It's so
ratchet.
Easy. Yeah.
For people that don't know, and younger guys, I mean, before that, we had ski boot slatches.
Yeah, the ski boot ones did not work.
Oh, and then they'd come off.
Pound,
yes, they'd open up. I mean,
your boots would fly out. Jesus.
I mean, all of our stuff did not work very well back then.
And you couldn't tell how tight it was going to be.
No.
So then you'd put it down and be, it's too tight. Now it's stuck. And you'd be, oh God, they were the worst.
Absolutely.
The slap ratchet was, it's the least celebrated, biggest innovation in snowboarding.
Absolutely. And you think about how micro adjust you can get now and how easy it is to get in and out. I know there's other...
right, but basically the slap ratchet is still what everybody uses.
It is, and it is awesome. So Dave Dodge, thank you on that one. Dave Dodge was a ski engineer for Rossignol, and he came to Burton. So a couple things. So first of all, back in the day, Jake was doing a lot of this work. He was not an engineer, so he went to the factories, and he went to like Kyle factory, for instance, in Austria. Everyone's probably heard the story. In the middle of the night, he went to go visit them. And I know the Kyle factory family really well because that was my factory. But they were the engineers. Like they just said, okay, here's how to make a snowboard. They were making model skis before that, right? So it's very much the same. And their rim construction, so they're just injecting these things. And they're bomber. Yeah. They were great. But it was such a step up from where Jake was when making, almost like skateboards before.
Yeah.
So
wood
yeah, but then Paul Wren came in, and Paul Wren really, the Burton boards that Craig rode was Paul Wren, and he had quadratic side cut, and he made the first how to make a snowboard. He made specs, and for Burton, and gave them to the factories. Okay, you have to have specs. You have to make sure you do these things. So it was great. I met him a couple times, but he left before I came in. Dave Dodge came on. Dave Dodge, great engineer. He did 3D. He did so many things. He did the step-in system. He did the, like I said, slap ratchet. So many cool things. And then Paul Marovitz was the snowboard designer, and he went on to create Rome snowboards. And now he's at a ski. He's doing a new project with a ski company. So he's still doing it to this day. So I mean, when it comes down to it, there's a really, again, I've been in it for a long time, but there's Mike, Mike from GNU. Yep. And then there's Tommy DeLago. Yep. And Paul Marovitz. And they've all been doing snowboard design for 40 plus years.
Someone should get those three guys in a helicopter. If you're rich and you listen to this show, yeah, you should thank all three of those guys with like a week at Monashe's.
Absolutely. I mean, it's amazing to think about that they've been doing it for so long.
That's so rad. Yeah, 40 years or whatever it is. It's got to be more than 40 even.
Yeah, at least. So, basically, the biggest thing for me was, and how I kind of got in touch with you is the custom. So everyone actually talked about this because, I was on the team that created the customs, and the story's been told a little bit, but I, as a product manager, I was in charge of the project. So, it's a very interesting story because it almost didn't happen. It wasn't this thing that we're going to create the most versatile snowboard ever. That's not what happened at all. In fact, it almost didn't happen. Again, this is my, from my perspective, 30 some years ago. I apologize to anybody else who thinks maybe I made some mistakes. But when I started in '93, my job was to create the product line, right? And so at that time there were the Airs, and then there was the signature boards, and then there was the Alpine stuff. And if the signature boards were designed and developed with these riders, so if you were not their height and their foot size, right, you're not going to ride that board, or you're not going to love it. Right. It's not possible. Craig, his boards were definitely a certain style for sure. Mm-hmm. And especially as he was getting older, when he's going more to the slope style. Yeah. So you had at that time, the Kelly slope style, you had Hawkins board, you had Brushie's board, and that was it, right? So, and you had the Airs, and the Airs were the bread and butters, right? So I remember walking in, and I go, geez, if you want a centered base, you can't get one unless you had a signature board at that time. Mm-hmm. And so I said, hey, we should probably make a higher end Air series, because we have the Airs that number one, the most boards. And it's kind of like, we tried that. It was called the Burton Air, and Jeff Davis wrote it, and whatever. It kind of went over.
That's cool to hear that, because I didn't really know where that Air fit in there, because there was the Kelly Air and the Burton Air.
It's called the Burton Air.
And they were so close in spec that it was almost like
this was before my time, but it didn't make a lot of sense.
So then they said, we've already tried this.
Well, first of all, no one, they were just, like the Burton Air, and it's like, whatever.
Yeah, totally.
All right, it's your first week. Let's whatever.
Right.
But I knew there was some, but at the same time, I was talking to JG, and, he said, what board have you been riding? I said, I've been riding the Air 6-1 from Chris Copley. He said, okay, good. Just, make sure, is that a Canadian board? Great. And I said, what do you mean? Well, because the Austrian boards were rim. So I was almost flabbergasted going, oh man. So half of the world is riding rim boards. They don't even know it.
Right.
The other half or quarter at that time, North America is riding woodland boards. And so unless you are, if you're in Europe, if you're not riding a signature board, you're riding a injected board with like a sliver of wood in it.
Yeah.
And so I said, that's gotta stop, because we can't continue that way and be successful. There's just no way.
Right.
So while Paul Maravitz was designing so for the 90, you talked to me about product lines and when do they all start and everything else. It's usually around a 2-year type thing.
Yeah.
So if you're designing the 95 line, well, that'll be 97, that kind of thing.
Totally.
So in 94, we started working on the 96 line. Okay. And the 96 line is when the custom came out. So during that period, a year before, that's when Paul Maravitz, he completely redid the Air series, and those shapes are the custom shape. So except for the tail.
Right.
And it really, they are great boards, but they had zero fanfare. No one talks about those boards. No one says those boards are the best board, most all-around board. Nothing. No one talks about it, but
True,
those are the same board, except for the tail was square at the bottom.
Yeah.
So it was pretty obvious, that the boards, we were getting twins. We were selling twins like crazy. And so all the boards themselves, we knew that they were going to get rounded tails. I mean, that was just obvious.
Yeah.
But what was happening was, at that time, and if you guys remember, everyone was cutting down their tips.
Totally.
Everything was twin.
Yep.
Everything was about just jibbing, everything else. It was great. It was awesome. But at the same time, and Burton really was behind that curve. They were slow to be in that market, slow to be having twins.
Yeah, if you look at the Burton catalog versus what was available at the same time, they held on to old shapes for a bit. 2 years, maybe?
It was just, we were just a little behind.
Yeah,
so,
just a little behind. Right.
So we could kind of see between Paul Maravitz and myself and JG, but really Paul, because is that, yes, this thing is great, but free ride is coming. Versatility is coming. Mm-hmm. So, you had a twin, but boy, were they so specialized. I mean, you cut the tip down. If it's a powder day, you can't ride it.
Yeah,
right?
those twin boards had really low kicks.
Yeah, so the thing was, back then, again, everyone was cutting them even smaller,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But we can kind of tell, and Terje was a big part of that too, because he rode a directional board.
Yep.
So he was kind of guiding us in that direction. And so we knew that the Air was going to get a rounded tail, but okay, how did it become the custom? And this is the crazy story here. So I said, okay, let's put this, and it was the product manager's role to create the line list in the beginning of the year. And you just make this list and you send it to everybody. You send it to Jake, you send it to marketing, you send it to everybody. And it had this line list, and it just said, okay, we're going to have twins, we're going to have this, whatever. And I just said high airs. That's all I said. High airs. And I don't know what that was, whatever. He had no idea. So I said, okay, great. Well, we have centered base. We put centered base on there. That's cool. But we had this board called the ASIM Air.
Yeah.
And the ASIM Air was awesome.
So awesome.
Rode so well. And I love that board. I rode it a lot. JG rode it a lot. And I went to Paul Maravitz and I said, hey, why does this board ride so well? Well, it's because it's got Triax glass. Now, we had been using Triax glass for years in our race boards. So I said, well, why don't we put that in our freestyle board? And, he was like, well, it'll be too torsionally stiff, so it won't perform well. And this was at that time because it was a race Triax. It was quite heavy. So and JG was quite upset with it. The ASIM Air was starting to kind of not sell very well. And so I went to Dave Dodge and I said, hey, Dave, can we make a freestyle Triax that was lighter, gave some torsional stiffness, wasn't so torsionally stiff that you couldn't, bend it. Because if it's too torsionally stiff, you can't initiate well. You're going to be catching your edge all the time. Yeah. So he said, yeah, I think so. And this was one of the great things about Burton is that Burton, we had the wherewithal. We were buying so much fiberglass. The fiberglass guys are like, oh yeah, you want a new glass? Great, so they made one for us really quick. And luckily we had a lot of great resources. We had a great lab, so we could get these things tested real quick. We had the equivalent of Craig's at the time. We get the boards made really quickly. So we got them to JG, and we knew we had something different, which was great. And so as we were going through that testing, we had this huge fallout in the factory, and every board delaminated in the Vermont factory, every single one. And so I learned that, we use polyethylene for the sidewalls, and polyethylene is known to be very slippery. But nothing sticks to it. So for a base, it's not a problem because it's all one thickness and it's just flame treated. So they flame treat it at the factory, and then you print behind it for even better kind of adhesion, and then you glue it together with the board. But for a sidewall that you plane, once you plane it, you've got to flame treat it, which basically means you got to put a little flame on this thing and make sure it fits. Bottom line is that it's very easy to screw up. So everything off the production line literally unzipped.
Oh God.
And this was my fault.
Oh wow.
Because I'm ultimately responsible.
Yep.
And so I quickly, again, I go to Dave Dodge. I'm like, Dave, we got to find something here. And so we created so I go, what about ABS? ABS is great. And he goes, no, it's too brittle. It'll crack. We've done it in our race boards. It works on our race boards. But so he goes, what if we add TPU? So we added TPU.
What's
it worked.
TPU? Urethane?
Yeah.
Yep.
And what was interesting, it made it a little damper too.
Yeah.
But we quick made that change. And so then we've got now a new sidewall material. We got this new glass. So we're going to put these in this new board series. This is the first place we're going to put it in and make it work. So JG was testing these. And again, feedback was looking pretty good. Paul was working on all new, of course, we had all new core profiles for that because it was all new glass. And
wait, was that the first V core?
No. So now we go to the cores. So
yeah.
I go, okay, well, how can we, and I got on this thing about we need to make these boards lighter. They were heavy back then. And I go, okay, so why are they so heavy? So I started, as an engineer, so I said, all right, we're going to weigh all the parts. We're going to put them through the process.
I love this.
And then we're going to weigh them again. We're going to weigh, dozens of them, right?
Yeah.
And what we found was that the variances were crazy. And the reason was, it's like, so where's all this weight coming from? We had all a certain amount, the amount of glue. We use wet laminate construction. So some boards got a lot more glue than others.
Right.
And it all soaks in.
Totally.
And so you've got this super damp, super heavy thing. And so I went to the production manager there, Joe Segura, and I said, we got to change this. So him and his manufacturing engineer, which was Jim Peterson, completely changed how we did things. So before it was the glue's just everywhere, and any guy can get a cups glue and throw it on there.
Yeah.
To a very precise process. So we're like, okay, we had gotten that under control. But then I started looking at these wood cores and I go, where are these wood cores coming from? Switzerland. So, well, we're in Vermont, and the Canadian factory is also getting them. Why are they from Switzerland? Well, it's a ski core, whatever. Turns out they were really thin laminates, 4 millimeters. Okay, this was good for skis, and it was, I think, poplar and ash, but they were heavy because they had all these glues.
Oh,
of course. About it, and all that glue just adds up. So I go, there's got to be a better way. I mean, we're shipping cores from Europe all the way over to here. So I went to our ski factory in Canada, and our snowboard factory. They also do skis, and they said, "Oh, we get Aspen. It's right here. It's available
from Quebec, right?"
Yeah. So I go to Dave and Paul, and I said, "Hey, let's try this Aspen core, but let's make it wider laminate." And so that's when we went to this Aspen core 20 millimeter laminates. which is pretty much standard now.
right now. Yeah.
And so, and again, I apologize for anybody else that may have already been doing this.
Sure.
But we have no idea because there was no internet.
Right.
We weren't taking anybody else's boards apart. I mean, you're in a vacuum, right?
You didn't take other people's boards apart? Because I know people from other companies.
Not really.
They took your boards apart.
Yeah,
that's
never.
For sure.
We didn't have time.
Right.
It just, by the time you would get them, if you would, it was too late anyway.
Right. Because, see, for everybody else, they're like, okay, these Burton boards are popular. They're selling. Whereas you guys, how are you going to even know who's popular and selling?
Well, not just that, but by the time it comes out in the market, we're already a couple of years.
Yeah. It just didn't make sense.
We never did that stuff.
Yeah, didn't make sense.
So I was super excited. We had a lighter glass. We had all new sidewalls. We had this new Aspen core, which we called A core. And so I was like, okay. And Jake was always about getting feedback. So you got to get feedback just from anyone. So we had some nice testing feedback from riders, and I'll bring Dave Downing into this in a second. But at the same time, I said, hey, I really wanted this thing to feel good, like when you pick it up, like light. So I go down to customer service, and there's a couple guys there, and I said, hey, what do you think? And they flexed it. Oh, okay, and pick it up. I'm like, what do you think? Yeah. I said, no, come on, it's light, right? Yeah. What? Yeah. I was so bummed.
Right.
This was not that much lighter. I mean, it was by the grams it was, but it did not feel much lighter. So I came to that conclusion. It has to be a pound lighter for someone to pick it up and go, holy shit.
Sure.
So meanwhile, we're testing. So we have this new board line, and Dave Downing had been hounding me and Joe Curtis about, hey, they were riding airs. I want a better air. I want an air that's, got centered base and whatever. And we always listened. And I'm sorry to say, Dave, we were already working on it, but you can't tell them that. You don't go, oh, well, we're already working on that.
Right.
Just go, oh, yeah, okay, Dave. Yep, thanks. Great feedback, and thank you. And at the same time, we would never give them a board that was not internally tested first. We don't want our team riders to be on something that's going to blow up.
Totally.
Or whatever. So we kind of get it to a certain point, let's say 90%, where then we bring them in. And Dave and Joe were instrumental, especially Dave, on really getting the last 10%, getting that, we gave him a whole bunch of different core profiles and whatever, and he made that board the last 10% perfect. So we knew we had this great board, but I still going, man, this thing isn't not light enough. So I go to Dave Dodge. I said, what else can we do? And he goes, well, you can always put balsa in it. I said, balsa, like airplanes? Yeah. I said, that's way too soft. And he said, well, not if you get the right density. So there was no internet back then. So I go to the factory, and they give me the Thomas register. You know what that is?
No.
So how you got stuff made back then was there was this thing called the Thomas register. It's like a telephone book, super thick. And you would open it up, and you'd start looking for whatever, fiberglass, ABS, whatever. Everyone would pay a little bit of money to get into this Thomas register. So I start looking up balsa,
Yeah.
Find a supplier, call them up. Hey, can you do balsa in this density? Oh yeah, we do balsa for the Corvette. They have it on the floorboard or whatever. I
Sure.
said, all right,
sure.
whatever. They come out to see us, and they, oh yeah, we can, make sure it's this density, whatever. So I'm like, oh my God, all right, great. It's getting late now. This is like October. We're going to be launching at the trade shows in February. So we get these things in, and again, thanks to the great people behind the scenes, the lab guys, whatever, and the guys that are, Sean Johnson makes all the prototypes. He still does it. Craig's made us these quick prototypes, got them all tested as far as pull out and whatever, and they were super light. They were super, super light. And gave him the JG, sent him down to New Zealand, super quick, quiet, ridden, people love him. I don't even think Dave Downing, I'm not even sure if he rode those because it was in between. It was like probably October time period or whatever. And so we had all this, and so this line came together out of just a very short time period. We had all new materials. We had shapes that we knew worked from the year before, but it had a rounded tail. And we didn't know exactly what we had, but we had something. And so it was like, oh shit, okay, now it's time to go. I don't know if you've heard of these meetings where we go to this meeting, a kickoff meeting for the end of the season, and basically you have to go in front of Jake and the sales guys and the marketing guys and go, okay, here's the product line.
Like the rider roundtable?
Not the rider. We were not having roundtables.
A whole other thing. Yeah.
Not the roundtable at the time.
Yeah.
What we were having at that time was, this is the last final say.
This is it. This is like,
Yes.
if something needs to be changed, this is the last possible time that we can do it.
So we're going through the product line, and then I finally explained to these guys, I said, hey, we're going to have 3 different cores. We're going to have our standard core, fly core, which is Aspen, and super fly core, which is the AB8, that balsa strips, 8 strips of balsa. And then we're going to have different bases. And we have tiers of product.
Sick.
And everyone's like, oh my God, that great, because we had nothing before.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
And so, well, okay, and then we bring in the board graphics, and I was calling it the high airs, right?
Still calling it the high air. Yeah.
It was just a line list. So George Mensch from JDK walks in with this board graphic. It was the butterfly graphic, not quite the one that got finished, and it said custom air. That's what it said on it.
Oh.
And I go to George, and I'm the product manager. I go to George. I said, George, what's that? He goes, I don't know. I just thought of it. And so I show it around, and then Andy Latz looks at it. Andy was still with the company at the time, and Andy goes, what about just custom? Drop the air. And that was it. Okay.
Yeah.
So like
that's amazing.
Amazing. It's like, that's it. It was it. And we're done. And like, so we had this new board, it's called custom. And then we're going, holy shit. Okay. We got all this new shit in it. JG says it's great. The riders like it. You know, Dave Downing was behind it. And so was Joe Curtis.
He filmed all year on it, right?
Well, yeah, but this was early. This was the year before.
The year before the year before.
So we had to quick go, oh shit, the graphics were the old air graphics.
Right.
We can't have those. So
right.
we quick get some new graphics made. Only had bases, had a quick photo shoot like in Colorado, whatever. Only bases. You know, so everything has to be just shot perfectly. And just squeaked it in. I mean, literally just squeaked it in to the catalog, just squeaked it into everything. And that's it. The rest is history. I mean, it's...
What a change, too. Like, all those things you just described. From one board, the same board you could get, depending on where you were in the world, you might get a Canadian version that kicked ass. You might get a rim board that is... I've described it on the show before, but... It's literally like, it looks like when you cut cardboard, there's like the wavy stuff that's inside cardboard. That's your core of wood. It's thin and it's just this wavy, shitty piece of wood that the sidewalls and the nose and tail, everything just is this reaction foam that just goes, and it was so bad that even like Rozzy doing these and Morrow doing these boards with pre-cured, pre-cut foam, you couldn't sell them because the rim boards were so bad. People just said, don't get a foam board.
Don't get foam. Yeah.
Don't get it because they were so shitty. And you go from that to this, this tiered system of stuff, which is like how everything in every company is now.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
It all of a sudden made a lot of sense. I remember there was a custom binding too, right? Like that I had custom bindings.
That was a year after,
but that's the success of the custom board.
That's what it was.
Is like, well, why don't we just call the binding a custom?
That's exactly right. I'm not sure. I'm not happy that the product manager did that. That was not, but whatever.
It made sense.
It made sense.
To a consumer, I was like,
did.
It's
a high-end stuff now.
See, that's the thing, is that the custom became such a well-known board because, like you're saying, it's doing the numbers, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you're a rippy guy, you get a rippy board. Maybe you're a brush guy, whatever. But the custom was like an everyman board.
It was. Well, the thing is, it was the first board, at least on the Burton line, that you really could take anywhere and you could ride powder with it, and it held an edge really, really well. You know, the other boards, every other freestyle board was biax. You know, so biax, if you guys know, I mean, it's really easy to turn. You're not going to catch your edge, but it's not going to hold an edge as well.
Torsionally, it just twists.
Right, exactly. It's going to be not torsionally stiff at all.
Yeah,
which is great for freestyle.
It's fun,
but
not great at high speeds. If you're riding groomers up here in Whistler,
it's again
try.
So for us to do all that in that short time period, I mean, it really is the culmination of, to be honest, like Burton had the wherewithal to make that lab, to make the prototype area, to make sure that we had the testing guys all in place. I mean, that was all JG. And then, Paul Maravitz doing the shapes, and, myself being very like, okay, I'm pushing the head of R&D, make a new glass and make it quick. And then we get it, we were lucky enough to get these things very quickly because our vendors were going, I want to make these guys happy. Right. So it was a culmination of all that stuff. And I never expected it to last as long as it did. I mean, it was 30 years. It's crazy. And the boards are pretty much the same. The only difference is they're wider now. And that has to do with riding styles. And we've all, before the custom 60, was 250 or something like that. Waist width, now it's a 256 or 258.
So it's not a huge difference,
It's not a huge difference.
But it is a difference.
Yeah. So the thing is that for us to nail it that well and it to still stick around, it's pretty cool.
Well, I think that lends itself to what you were talking about before we turned the mics on about this generation of, if you're a current snowboarder, just got into it, right? And you're excited about snowboarding, you're not, the industry isn't counting on you to help it figure out how to make a board anymore. When you and I were duct taping our Sorels and coming up with solutions for heel lift, coming up with solutions for why is my board so heavy, cutting off straps off the third top thing. I don't need this. I've never needed this. This isn't, and shaving stuff down. Nobody needs to do that now, right? Because 30 years ago, you spent your time at work and your effort at your job to make something that's going to work well enough that, with a few little tweaks, it's 30 years old and it's still good.
I mean, I think a big part of it is that everyone, and not just Burton, I'm talking about all the other brands too, were, at least the guys I knew, very passionate about snowboarding, so they not, you don't, if you're an engineer or if you're in product development, it's because you loved snowboarding.
Mm-hmm.
And so you are trying to solve these things for yourself. You're trying to solve your things for the customers. But I mean, you were out there, experiencing it, riding it. You knew because this was your passion. I mean, that's the big difference. I mean, it's. I don't know if it's like that today. I can't answer that, but it was then, and I think that's what made it great. To be honest.
Yeah, I think I've noticed I made an effort this year to just do what we used to do, see someone in the lift line. I think the last 4 or 5 times I've been up there, every single time I've had a conversation that goes a little something like, oh, I see you're on a rental board. Are you new at the sport? Is this just your first year? And the guy goes, no, actually I only go a couple times a year. And if they get new rental boards every year, so I figure I'm on like the right thing, And then his friend is going, you know what? We went 3 times this year. You just spent $300 on rentals. You could probably go get a board for that. And then I'm going, yeah, you should go to the shop, look around, get something that you really identify with, and you'll probably go more than 3 times a year. He's going, yeah, cool. But I haven't been having those conversations for so long because I think the old man in me has been looking at everybody and just shaking my head, going, you're on a fucking rental board? I don't want to think about you. Oh, this kid's on, your bindings are on backwards. Twice this year I was like, your bindings are on backwards. And then I stopped saying it like that. I started saying, oh, are you one of those people that rides up with your back foot still strapped in? And both times the people were like, yeah, that's me. I know it's weird. People always say that. And then I got to say, guess what? The reason we're saying that is because unlike skiing, snowboarders actually give a shit that you're having a good time on the hill. We want you to have your board set up forward properly. If there's any little tweaks that we can tell you to make your day better, we're into that. That's not a part of the ski culture right now, I don't think.
Yeah, I think
that's a heritage that comes from the days that we were looking at stuff going,
absolutely.
Oh yeah, no, dude, you're straight across. Come on, put a little forward angle on the binding. You're doing all these turns and you're never riding backwards. Why do you have your binding set 0-0?
Well, I think a lot of it, though, to be honest, is let's face it, the collapse of the local shop. I mean, before you had a place that was a culture center, one, and also you can go and talk about stuff. I mean, if you go buy something off the internet, it's just a click. I mean, you don't learn anything. You know anything about it. I mean, and so you got a pair of bindings and you screw them on and, okay, whatever.
Or someone screws them on for
you.
And you never even think
about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's part of the culture stuff that I think sad that we've kind of lost that, a big part of it. And then secondarily is, I've been recently, now that I'm semi-retired, I've been riding a lot more. And I'd like to talk to people about stuff. And then I ask them, hey, what do why are you riding that board or whatever? You like it, blah, blah, blah. And then, I might say something like, Craig Kelly used to ride similar, with a larger, the larger nose, and they don't know who Craig Kelly is, and they don't know who Terje is. And I don't blame people, but I kind of do blame our sport in a way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a bummer because, I have these kids that I know here that are lifties, whatever, and we're talking to them. And they're excited because they're getting new Burton boards. And I was also getting the same one, the counterbalance. And so I said, hey, this is a great free ride board. And it's, I like the fact that it's got a nose on it. And then I kind of talked a little bit about how, Craig used to like to have a longer nose. And they had no idea who Craig was, right? And I look back and I go, what are we doing wrong that we're not celebrating the pioneers of our sport or the ones that really changed our sport? And I go, okay, I ask any football fan, hey, do you know who Joe Montana is? They're going to know, right? You ask any basketball fan, do you know who Michael Jordan is? Of course. But we in snowboarding have walked away from our icons that helped grow the sport.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I kind of blame a little bit of the throwaway culture of snowboarding, of this gotta always be young, everything, the new, it's always the newest, always the greatest, whatever, without continuing to celebrate our past. I mean, if you watch any NBA game or whatever, you're going to see, if the Lakers play the Celtics, they're going to have images of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird.
Sure.
I mean, and they know because that changed the sport back then, and they're going to celebrate that. And we just don't do that. I mean, we don't talk about Terje. We don't talk about a lot of others out there. I mean, I don't want to go through the whole list, but there's, as you guys know who they are.
Yeah.
And it's a real bummer.
The Baker Bank Slalom celebrates our heroes for sure. But I think the mechanism was the throwaway culture, that we're always looking for the next thing. It wasn't cool to have those clip buckles after the ratchet came out. That's it. And Craig was unfortunately in the thick of that throwaway. I think at that time, no pros ever made it to 30. Like, people just cut themselves out of the game. I'm going to be turning 30 next year. Like, I'm going to have to go do something else.
Well, I don't know if it's that or the fact that snowboard companies wanted to get the latest and greatest, where it's like, there's an 18 or 20-year-old that can spin 6 more times or whatever.
And we fell for it. That was the thing, was that, like, it would be difficult for me to fall for it today. Like, watching a 2340 or whatever, I'm like, that just doesn't get me going.
I don't think it gets. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to. Of course, they're great athletes, but
they're great athletes.
It's not snowboarding to me.
Right. But that happens in every sport, right? Like, I've heard that some of the core lords of surfing are like, aerials aren't surfing. Okay, it's fine. Like, we're not those guys, but maybe we are. But I think that there is something magic that is lost in the sport going the direction it went.
Well, I think overall, the fact of the matter is that we can't turn back the clock.
Right.
But I think we need to be celebrating. We are the first generation of snowboarders. Like, we created the sport, all of us together, and we should be looking back more. It shouldn't always be, oh, this is the latest, this is the greatest, this is the newest kid, this is the newest kid, this is the newest kids. It's like, don't forget about these other guys. And then you talk about, well, you know what? They didn't do this and that, but they also had a lot of style, and people thought that was pretty cool. And they broke down so many barriers. So, I'm not trying to tell Burton or others how to market, but I think it is pretty important to not forget about those roots and celebrate those roots. And I also think that in some ways that's maybe why some older snowboarders have kind of got turned off.
Oh, it's definitely why. I would agree with you there. I don't know that there's a solution. I think what you just said is very succinct. Like, we took that path, and that's the path we're on. If we could turn back time and maybe listen to Terje and the Olympic thing a little bit better, instead of making it a soundbite about, like, oh, he didn't go and he probably would have won. Like, no, he didn't go for a really important reason. Not just for the human rights violations of the Olympic Committee, but because snowboarding was in the hands of small homegrown snowboard federations that were clubs that were run by passionate snowboarders that had a mandate at their events that 30% of the course direction was coming from the riders. Now it's 0%.
Right.
Zero.
Right.
There's no rider consensus on how do we want to make this course? How do we want to change this course? It's just, here's the Olympics. We're going to pay the best designer or whatever. We're going to work with this hill. We're going to make a lot of money, essentially, is what's going to happen. We're going to have a lot of eyeballs on this. And the focus doesn't seem to be so, I don't know. I'm talking out my ass now because I don't watch the Olympics. But I can tell you that kind of inclusion of the people who are actually doing the sport instead of some psychopath building some giant thing that the riders had no input in. Right. We I don't know. We can't go back though.
Well, I mean, hopefully like things like natural selection and whatever, can help bridge the gap a little bit because it is more like snowboarding.
Dude, did you see the post from today?
No, I did not.
Terje is in natural selection.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if it's one of those, the preliminary kind of elimination round. It just is rad to see. He's like, so they don't show him snowboarding, but they show him
that'd be cool. I'm
with
sure
the
he still
vest
rips,
on and dropping in against some young cat.
Yeah. So, I mean, and maybe there are some ways through that, but I don't want to sound like an old man yelling at a cloud, but my personal thing is I like to reach out to riders, in line and ask them about their boards and their setups and say, hey, why do you like that board? And it's great to get interaction with riders again, like we used to do. And, it starts with each individual, I think.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's appreciated. Once you get on a chairlift, you got some snowboarders, you start talking a little bit. Hey, what have you been riding? Where are you riding? How's that board? Why do you like that? How's it working powder? How's it working in ice today or whatever? And that's how it used to be. And I think if it starts with small individuals, maybe we can get a little more together again. It'd be nice. But I enjoy it. I think they enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then overall for me, working in the industry for such a long time, I took a big, I kind of walked away from it, did other things. And now coming back, I've got the time. I want to snowboard more. I'm snowboarding more than ever. 6 days a week I'm riding, Damn. So I'm trying to get 1 million vertical feet this year. So, I want to be able to, I guess, spread the word a little bit, it's still a cool thing.
Like when you're trying to throw an event on a mountain and then you talk with marketing and it's an event planning thing and people have these meetings, an event is different than a gathering. A gathering is something that's kind of outside. It's that hack that we were using back in the 90s. It's we're not getting permission. We're doing what we want to do, because as soon as you get permission, now you've got someone on your committee that's on behalf of the mountain, and we can't shoot, we can't open this up because blah, 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 and liability over here. And no, we need it this way, and we can't do it on that slope. And the gathering is the key. And, some of the first gatherings were, the ride on Jake days. Those were nice.
Yeah.
The Keenan event at Seymour last year was a gathering, which was just like snowboarders took over the hill. One of the most popular hills in the world. Seymour was overrun. The parking lot was a giant celebration of life. And nobody sued anybody. And if someone got hurt, they got medical attention. They're okay. And like taking it back, like we kind of gave up a lot when we gave snowboard competition. The ultimate competition's now going to be the Olympics. Like there's no world champions anymore.
Yeah.
It's so we can take it back, and it starts with events, with gatherings, and it starts with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like being curious in the lift line again.
And
why are people here? What are you doing here?
Just talking to people again. I mean, I think it's a big deal because that's how we started riding, and we all loved it. That was a big part of it. So.
Yeah, it would be such a shame to start now and not have that.
I will say, Jake was always very talkative with people, because he was very approachable, even though it was Jake Burton,
Yeah.
And so he helped obviously spread that warmth, I think, because he was not I'm not going to speak for, any other owners, Tom Sims or whatever. I didn't know him very well, but I knew Jake really well, and Jake was always cool to everybody. And I think that was, and he would always, like you hear about the stories about him being into product. He was really into snowboarders and snowboarding.
Right.
That's what it was.
That's super sick.
So, I owe a lot to Burton because, they, that sink or swim mentality was really about giving a lot on your plate that you really learn quickly, and so you got a lot of responsibility, and people grew and learned a lot about business, learned a lot about working with people, learned a lot about working internationally. So that was awesome. And, so many people came out of Burton and started their own companies and have done really well with it. The entrepreneurialism that Jake had and Donna, has been, if you could do the tree off of Burton, it's probably amazing.
Yeah, you do. You, especially in your timeline there, like, because when did Brush leave for Ride? 97 or 98? Probably 97.
Yeah,
right
probably.
Before the Olympics, right? Like Salter's like, we're gonna get the Gretzky of snowboarding, and we got Jeff Brushie.
I was the last person to talk to him at Burton, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So product manager, we're in charge of working with the riders and trying to figure out their board graphics and get going on their. And he was just, again, back then, no one had cell phones, whatever. And he was just dogging me. I couldn't get a hold of him.
Yeah.
So finally, I had to get a hold of him. I'm like, Jeff, we got to work on your board this year. And he just said, I'm done. Something like that. I'm out. And I said, okay, okay. Well, I'm going to transfer you to the marketing guy. There you go.
HR, whoever.
No, marketing, head of marketing, VP of marketing.
Yeah.
All right, great. And that's the last time I talked to Jeff, and he had his own thing going. That was pretty funny. But I'm talking about more of also, you had Andy Latz, he started Nixon. You had, Paul Maravitz and Josh Reed. They started Rome. List goes on and on.
Yeah, there was Mission 6 Clothing was whoever the designers were from your time.
Yeah, so
took off and made their own stuff.
Right. And again, a lot of it had to do with Jake giving you so much responsibility.
Right.
And you had to figure it out.
And even other brands, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you'd have other brands that have shitty boots. All of a sudden they steal the Burton boot designer, and now they got better boots. It's like
that happens.
I'm just saying that Burton has has affected more than just by putting out their own product. They've created the people that created snowboarding all over the place.
And again, this is obviously I said the Nitros and Libtex and everybody else that's been around a long time, they have great people too.
Absolutely.
So, but that was great. And also, when it comes down to it, I do miss working with the riders. That was always the best part of the job because they were, best athletes in the world, right? So,
what was it like with Craig? Because you come on 93. He's still got
he said signature board.
A signature board in the line.
Yeah.
For another couple of years.
The
last one's 95 or 96.
Something like that. Yeah. He had the slope style. So my first day on the job. So first of all, I was never in awe of anybody because I'd been to the camps and I met most of everybody, but I never met Craig. So I'm like first or second day on the job and I'm in the hardgoods office and there's only a handful of us there. And we all, could hear each other and his phone rings and I'm not going to say who picked it up. I was like, hey, it's Craig. I'm not talking to him. No. All right. Hey, how about you? You talking to him? No. Paul, talk to Craig. And then and then everyone who worked with the riders always had to take notes. And then you send it to everybody, right? I realized that Craig was so meticulous that he could talk to you for a long time, take your afternoon up, talking about everything.
Yep.
And so some of the guys were like, I have a lot of work to do here, and I know Craig is great and all, but if you could please talk to him because he will talk to you forever on product.
Sick.
And so that's how he was. He was about everything like that. And I thought it was so funny to me because like first day they're giving me Craig Kelly and then afterward I realized yes, because he'll talk, to my minutest details on stuff. And then he would ask to be, okay, will you transfer me to soft goods? Because now I got I want to talk about someone about zipper pulls.
The zipper pull or whatever. I found a jacket that has a zipper pull that I think we should be using or something.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I had one conversation with Craig Kelly on the chairlift at Mount Baker, and I just asked him about his board, and he went through the specs with me, and I was like, oh, that's cool. He told me the waist width, the offset towards the tail, the reason that he changed the shape on the tail. And I was enthralled. I'm like, I can't believe, because at the time, some other companies would just make a board in Austria and put a graphic on it and then give it to the team rider and be like, this is your board. Here's your board. And the guy would be like, I don't even want to ride this thing.
It was really strange. We did it, I guess, a little different because we did listen to the riders. I remember Shannon Dunn came in. So Shannon was riding for Sims, and she had the Sunflower board, which was world famous.
Yeah.
Did really well.
Great board.
And it was a twin.
Yep.
And so when she came over to Burton, the minute she signed her contract, Eric Koch brought her in to myself and JG, and and we were late in the product cycle, and he goes, these guys are going to make a board for you. And so we walk in, and we take her into the lab, and we start talking to her. And we said, okay, what do you want? What do you want? And she was, kind of, well, what do you mean? Well, okay, so do you want a twin? Because you're riding a twin. Well, not really. I was like, what? So, it was kind of, I'm not going to say this is exactly what happened, but we kind of got the conclusion of they gave her the board, and you make a great graphic on it, and we think it'll fit you. But she was no, I want to ride everything. I want a directional board and then she didn't really. We kind of talked her through the whole process because we assumed that she had already been through it a little bit with Sims.
Totally,
but she wasn't.
She hadn't. Yeah.
But she was so awesome to work with, and she was so open to everything, and she was fantastic. I loved working with her, but it was an eye opener to us because we thought, oh, everyone. Probably does it like us.
Yeah, she really was like the Terje of women's snowboarding at the time. She was hard to beat.
She was awesome, just a great person and great rider. And,
yeah. When I talked with her, I remember her talking about just the same thing that so many guys have talked about too, the competition day in the half pipe, like they cut like an awesome pipe. So they love riding half pipe so much that they miss the award ceremony where they win. They don't care because this pipe's going to get destroyed tomorrow. This is the only time that they're going to get to ride this thing.
That's a different day, of course.
Totally different time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she talked about like driving for hours just to go, oh, we heard they cut the pipe at so-and-so, and just to go and ride. She was obsessed, which is sick.
And she she was one of my favorite riders to work with, her Victoria Jalouse as well. Sick. She was an amazing rider, and we worked with her signature model. And, Nicole Engerath, she's not talked about often.
Right.
But I like to bring her up because she should have got a signature model.
Totally.
If she was from North America, she would have.
Yeah.
But just one of those things from Switzerland. But great rider, great individual, love her to death. And then on the guy's side, loved working with Terje. I mean, greatest rider in the world. I mean, there's nothing else to say about that. But some other guys that you don't hear about too often is Johan.
Oh.
Guy was rips and just such a good dude. And, he's a really good guy, just, and great rider. And then I brought it up earlier, but no one really talks about it, but Keith Wallace was an amazing rider. He was in that window, right after with Craig, and, I'm kind of bummed he didn't get a signature model, but it just didn't happen for him. But he ended up coming to work with Burton, and he worked in hardgoods with us. It was awesome. And then eventually became a sales rep, and, did great things out there. But, Keith was an amazing rider, and I go ride with him. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, there's tons of stories like that of these other riders that, I like to talk about that with other people because you don't really think of that when you go, oh, who's your top 3 riders? And I said, Keith Wallace is one of them. Well, it's because, he was passed over, I guess. I don't know. It wasn't his time. But he was amazing rider. Shout out to Keith Wallace. Hopefully you're snowboarding.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Yeah. I love that. It's such an incredible era. And like you said, everything was a little bit more tight-knit because it was smaller. Like you could know more people that were big. When you went to Mount Hood, oh my God. You said 90 there were more counselors than campers or guest pros, right? Because a guest pro was basically...
Well, there's only 5 campers in 90.
Right. But even in 91...
Oh, there's so many riders.
Like when I think about sitting in the food hall, all those Euros were there.
Yes.
And that was the year that Bertrand and Camille just
Red O'Lam
killed it. Yeah, Rachel was there.
Yeah.
And he had a couple of good years after that too. But there was just so much of the industry would descend on Mount Hood.
Well, also what's interesting is that, here I am, a camper, quote unquote, with Jason Ford in 1990. And then a couple years later, I'm at the show and I'm at Burton, but he's at ride at that time. But it was just everyone, it was just such a small world, which was super cool back then, But, just going back to it is that those days for me, it kind of, when I walked away, I didn't really think about it that much.
When did you leave?
2000, beginning of 2000. And I from there I went to Nike skateboarding. I started at Xavier skateboarding, which was from 2000 to 2004. And then from there I just went into Nike at Universe kind of thing. And now I own a dog products company. You could probably hear my dogs barking, but with my wife, Cycle Dog, and we've been doing that for 17 years. But the thing is, for me, it's another passion. I love animals. So, that's I think really important is that you always say, you should be doing something you're passionate about, and I'm a big proponent of that. So, if it was just about, making money or whatever, you might be doing something else, but that's not what I want to do anyway. I want to be happy with my passions. That's why I work for Fox Racing Shocks, because I love biking as well. And it makes a big difference, I think, for people to hire passionate people, because you're just more into it.
Totally.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah, that's all there is to it.
I will say this is I'm going to be the old man here, but the best employees we ever had are guys that just hounded us in every place. You know, I had these guys calling till finally you're like, just hire that guy already.
Yes, that's one of my very favorite stories that I've heard on the podcast was Matt Cummins calling Mike Olson and Pete being like, can I trade my mom's skis for a snowboard? I really want a snowboard. And they're like, nah, we don't want any skis. And then he would just keep calling them. And there's a lamp that my parents are talking about getting. It's a really nice lamp. Like I could sweeten the deal with it. They're like, dude, we have to buy materials to make the board. Like we need at least $240 so we can build you a board. And then eventually Mike just goes, God damn, that calls all the time.
Yeah.
We should make him a board.
Yeah.
And he's had the longest running pro model. It'll never be dethroned. There's no possible way of that happening.
And great dude too.
And he's so sweet.
Yeah.
And actually, little known fact, he's got the longest running independently owned snowboard company with One Ball J because he started in like 87 or something.
Amazing.
And it's still going, and
Amazing.
he's never sold to anyone. It's just him, and the wax is really good.
Yeah. He also does bike stuff as well. He's got one bike or whatever. And
sick.
Yeah.
It's one now. It's
yeah,
just
and he does all types of lubricants and whatever, and he's way into the scene and he's a good guy.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about here is this like inbuilt entrepreneurial spirit that you still see at Mount Hood. Guys are making their own products. They're bringing them down there. They're trying to get people to get on board.
Yeah. The one thing I do want to say, though, is very interesting. As I've kind of gotten back into it here over the last couple of years, I've been riding a lot of different boards and a lot of different styles of boards. And everything works now.
Everything works.
Which is a lot different than in the 90s.
Right.
You know, you had, if the stuff was either blown apart or just did not work.
Or didn't work at all.
Right? So what a golden age that everything works and it's not going to not only not break, but any board out there is pretty much going to work well.
Yeah.
Which is great. One of the negatives, and one of the reasons why is because there's a consolidation of factories now.
Sure.
So before, everyone and their brother was making boards in their basement or their garage or whatever, or small little factory. And of course you had all types of different defects and things like that. You know, if you don't have enough resin versus the hardener, you know, whatever.
Sure.
So now we've got this consolidation of really, really good factories and they can make really good snowboards. And so that's a positive to the industry. And another positive is that anyone can make basically, if you have an idea on a snowboard, for instance, can contact the factory and you can make great snowboards.
Mm.
So
true.
So in the era of these like very, very different shapes, if you have the wherewithal to pay for the molds, you can get snowboards made, and they're gonna not fall apart.
Yeah.
That is the greatest thing that's going right now. The negative, though, is that with the consolidation becomes a fact that it's a homogenation a little bit of all the snowboards are pretty much the same, you know. So back in the day at Burton, we were very secretive of what we put in the snowboard,
right,
how we put it together. We didn't want anyone we didn't talk about it. You know, we didn't say what kind of whatever we had. Everything was, you know, Superfly core. It was not balsa wood.
Yes,
you know, we did not talk about any of that stuff. And that was a big difference. And if you look at other industries that have become a very, you know, Asian, you know, mostly Asian factories, foreign factories, the sharing of ideas are very prevalent. And so even if you have a new idea, it is shared very quickly. So it is very hard to innovate. So one of the negatives, I think, of today is that everyone has the same menu to look off of pretty much.
Yeah. I think I remember hearing it in wetsuits that you can get exclusive technology for a year or two but then the factory is going to give it to everybody else.
Right. And, they go, well, here's how it usually goes, because I've worked at so many companies.
Yeah.
Well, we can't give you that, but we'll give you this. It's just almost exactly the same, but it's not exactly the same. It's almost exactly the same.
It's the exact
same thing.
Right.
Oh, shit. Okay, great. It's a slightly different color. Okay, whatever. So anyway, but...
and that is a bummer. It actually is a bummer. Because
it's
how do you differentiate your brand? But you've also mentioned, how do you differentiate yourself, right? Like Sean Palmer, Sean Farmer, like those guys, for me, looking at magazines, how could you not look up to these guys? Were like characters.
Yeah, different era for sure.
Yeah.
So on your thoughts though, like for you, you've been snowboarding for a long time, right? Do you feel that we've like product-wise plateaued, or do you feel like we're still...
So I jumped from Wired, which is a small independent factory in Vancouver, which prides itself on, top-end materials and CNC construction, hand-built boards, and went to Burton this year. And I have to say that I feel the difference in the boards. Like there's something that the engineering that goes into these boards, probably plus the factory, like just the tolerances at the factory. And I'm riding first quality boards from Burton. They're not cheap. Like they are not cheap retail, but they do what they're supposed to do in a very special way. I'm really happy with the way that they ride. And typically I'm a boots guy. I'm like, as long as I have boots that rip, as long as my boots are comfortable, I feel like I can do any binding, for sure any binding, and mostly any board. But this year I got to pick like really, really nice stuff, really, really nice boots to start out with. Like I haven't had nice feeling feet for like 15 years.
Yep.
And I didn't realize how bad I actually was hurting. It's nice to have no foot pain. So for me, the improvements are there. And maybe next year the stuff won't be as good. I don't know. But it feels like geez, man, I've been chasing powder, you know what I mean? And I finally, 7 years ago or 8 years ago with Wired, got a swallowtail board, and I can't go away from them anymore.
Yeah.
Like I love the quiver idea. I've heard the argument for the other side, like ride a 169 and ride it in everything, like a kind of bigger, do everything board. But I like riding a 53 for like a 53 twin for like a park day,
right? And
riding a 64 swallowtail for a deep pow day. I really like what the boards do,
Yes.
So I think I think that there's still innovation going on that's exciting, and this is an unpopular opinion amongst snowboarding purists, but the step-on stuff, when I tried it, I forgot I was trying it. That's all I can say about it, was that I forgot. Like I wasn't feeling like I'm trying some new thing. I clicked and rode the day, and then was like at the end of the day going, well, I didn't notice anything. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't like, wow, we step on. I was like, oh shit, I was just riding step on this whole time. Like I didn't miss my straps. It was faster getting in, but that wasn't enough for me to be like, oh geez, I really wish I could get into my bindings faster. I can get in my strap bindings absolutely fine. But I think to me, the testament that it didn't change my day, I was like, well, they've caught up. They've caught up with the thing. They're doing what I didn't feel like I was in weird, uncomfortable boots that were hard to walk in. Like I just felt like I was in my boots, but they clicked to the board differently.
Cool.
Which was rad.
That's awesome. Like my thoughts are that I love the differentiation of the boards to a certain extent. And I think that the specialty boards are awesome, and whatever your specialties are. And so, having 3-4 boards, if you could, and there's ways to get 3 or 4 boards, whether it be used or whatever. I mean, you know how it goes.
I need to say that
Yes,
here is that I was riding with Ben Bullock the other day, and he was riding, I don't know how old the board was, but it's an older board. And he made the point of saying, like, I don't need any more boards. Like, I don't have to ride a next year's.
Right.
It's cooler for me. He didn't say cooler, but it appears cooler to him to be like a realist about, like, what do I need from a board?
Right. So I'm right there with you that having the specialty powder board is awesome. And
I love it.
You know, and other things. So I think that has been a great positive snowboarding. The negative is, and even for someone like myself who used to, know a lot about snowboards, maybe not as much as I used to anymore, but it is very, very difficult to walk through these catalogs and figure out what boards. There's too many.
I'm just trying to learn how to speak Burton. Like,
all brands. I'm going, oh my God. It's in some ways I think a turn off a little bit, because it is overwhelming. Overwhelming.
Confusing.
And you're splitting hairs, I think, a little too much. That's my opinion, because I can't figure it out.
Yeah, I agree.
And then you're exhausted. I'm not even going to figure it out anymore.
Yeah, one of the major things that was a fail. I don't know if it's still a fail for companies. My son was working at the shop where I worked when I was his age, and he asked me about the weight ratings on the boards, because some boards give like a really narrow weight rating on the cheat code, and I'm like, oh my God, no, the guy's not going to break it if he's 185 pounds and it says up to 180. That's
well, first of all, the product manager is the guy that builds those things, and I used to laugh before I was a product manager. I go, how do they figure this out? And then next year I had to do it myself.
Yeah,
but
well, how do you figure it out?
Honestly, at Burton, we kept them quite wide. The ranges were quite wide.
That's what you got to do.
It makes
because
no sense.
It'll accommodate
It's
a 240-pound guy.
It's this very, but nowadays they're using weight a lot more than we did back then. It was it was not a big deal. Like, we didn't make a big deal about the weight. Now It's going, if you weigh this much and you have this size foot, you should be doing this. And some guy in the lift was trying to tell me that's what size board you have, because of your weight and your size of your foot. Right. And I said, what about your height?
Yeah.
And he said, oh no, that's not how it works. And I said, okay, if you're telling me a big basketball player versus with certain size foot versus a small fat guy are going to have the same size board because of the weight. But that's, but that's getting a little in semantics, but my point being is it's very, very, very difficult to figure so many boards out right now, and hopefully it's not detrimental to our sport, because it is confusing.
Well, remember seeing skiing when we were, in the 90s. You go in, say, a general sporting goods store. Skiing was so boring. Like, it just didn't have any personality. You're looking, and it just looked like a schwack load of skis. And then snowboarding was like color hits and crazy graphics and weird shapes and fun. And I think we've kind of come to where it's just stacks of those, like kind of what the skis were.
It is. Hopefully we're going to get a graphics revolution coming soon.
Yeah,
do something different and fun. So,
yeah. I always love seeing the libs on the wall, because their graphic program has never gone away from being like,
they're super cool.
Haywire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always loved that.
Yeah. But it's interesting too, is that, some things, it's always the trends crack me up, because, fat pants are back.
Sure.
And I love it.
The fattest pants I've ever seen in my life the other day.
I know, because we did this in the 90s, with Twist and everybody else, and then they went away. And
how fun is it to go back and see, like, Tarquin Robbins and those guys in those big Gene Fantasy days? Like, they actually rode in a way that I'm like, I'm surprised that didn't stay a thing. That got, like, you know what I mean? Like, there are a few really stylish riders out there for sure. And listen, don't listen to me. I don't know what's going on in the snowboard industry. It's too huge.
But it is funny though, is the stances were narrow, then the stances were wide, then they're narrowing up again, and then and then high backs, low backs, and that's the whole thing. forward lean, no forward lean, all this other
Baseless
stuff.
bindings.
I mean, but it's kind of funny to see that, again, all these trends happening. And maybe as an older person, I don't participate as much. I still use a lot of forward lean.
A
lot, you know. Like
I went to
7.
flat forward lean, God, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago now.
I can't do it, so I'm still at 6 or 7 on the Burton
Burns
scale.
my legs.
Yeah,
still.
I know. It's a sweet burn, man.
Well, it means you can carve.
Yeah,
You're not doing any lock
exactly.
knee,
I don't want to do any lock knees.
shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's kind of funny. I was talking to Chris Doyle a while back, and I go, "Oh, about forward lean." He's like, "Oh, no one asks about forward lean anymore."
Yeah, isn't that funny? I bet if you went to most shops and asked about forward lean, they'd be like, "What's that?"
Right.
Maybe not what's that, but definitely like, the cube on the back goes like forward lean or none.
Right.
It's up to you.
But who knows? Maybe it's gonna come back again because
Yeah.
everything has been turning around. And
The coolest nerd thing that I learned this year from Mark Fawcett, who I will publicly say is probably has the best carve in the world. Jeremy Jones got a pretty good one too. They train the same place. He told me that back foot heel block will create that nice, like a really nice, deep heel side turn. He's doing one with union. There's going to be a union that has a cant, but not like this. It's like a high heel. And I'm making one, and we'll see if it works for me. Because when you go every day, when you go most days, you go 6 days a week, you're mostly riding kind of shitty conditions, hoping to get up there early, get some groomers or whatever.
Yes.
You're carving a lot.
Yes.
That heel block, if it can get you those extra carves, I'm 100% down.
Yeah, whatever works for you, I guess. I still ride soft boots. I mean, I'm talking about flexible boots.
Me too. I'm in the Burton, what is it, the Moto or no, the Ruler.
I don't understand. I mean, me personally as a rider, I don't want to wear a hard boot that's shaped like a soft boot. I don't want that.
I've never liked hard boots.
But I mean but people are riding these super stiff boots. I mean, if that's what they want to do, it's fine. That's what's kind of cool about snowboarding. It's like, hey, whatever works for you.
Yeah, and sometimes like some of the best riders were riding something that I couldn't ever even imagine.
Right, and that's the great individualism about the sport, which has still always been and always will be. Everyone just does their own thing. And that's super cool.
Yeah, when I saw Jim Rippey, he's a pretty tall guy, athletic and everything, and he's talking about his Alaska part, and he's like, I was riding a 54. I'm like, jeez, you were riding a 54 in Alaska, like a tiny little board.
Was he? He wasn't riding his board?
He was riding a 54 of his board. It came in a 54 and a 57 or something.
I thought it was a 56.
Maybe I'm wrong. You know what?
Yeah, whatever.
I'll have to go back.
It
But even
matter.
if it is a 56, it's only that much longer than a 54.
It's basically a twin, actually. It's very close to a twin.
Yeah.
Directional twin. But, hey, whatever. Rippey was a fucking strong rider.
He's exactly embodies what you were just talking about. He did what he did because that's what he wanted to do. Which is sick. Super
cool guy.
Yeah.
Very, very intricate about what he wanted on his board. I will tell you that.
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
like Craig, right? Like one of the stories that Craig's mom told me was that the day before competition, he would take his bindings. No, sorry, it wasn't his mom. It was Kelly Jo. He would take his bindings apart every bolt and check, the Loctite, make sure everything went back together every day before he would go to competition, the night before, meticulously.
Well, Jim was a little different on just exactly what he wanted on his board. And if you've seen his boards, they are beautiful.
They're gorgeous.
But I'll turn the Wayback Machine here. This was before the internet. This was before anyone had cell phones. This was before anyone had email, pretty much. And you're trying to work with riders and trying to get stuff done on their schedule, on our schedule. So, for instance, Jim is traveling the world, and he says, "Oh yeah, I want a gold flake, and I want a red, but it has to be a certain red."
He told this story on the show.
Yes, and I want to clarify this one too for him.
Yeah.
And because he was talking to me.
I love this.
And so he's like, but it has to be a certain red. It has to be a special, like when there's a certain color and so I go, so when you're doing top lacquers is what we were doing back then. So why Burton boards looked so beautiful back then was because we did top printing, and not everybody was doing top printing. And we did it afterwards. So you make the whole board and you print it, and then you put a clear coat over it. And then, of course, you sand all that stuff. And, to me, I was always saying is that we're making sports cars.
Yeah.
We want these things that look beautiful. We don't want any glass bumps at all. No, you can't see any glass. So anyway, though, when you do lacquer, which is a curtain coat, you're putting the board through a curtain coat machine, the minimum order size is hundreds of gallons. You can't just order especially like a little thing of curtain coat paint.
Okay.
It's just not possible, especially
yeah.
metallic.
Yeah.
And just to get the curtain coat running, you need tens of gallons just to get the thing to flow, right? So you're trying to make, Jim Rippey's like, yeah, okay, the gold, that's fine because we did the gold from last year, but this red has to be a certain style. And so I go to and the factory's going, we can't, first of all, I don't even know what you're talking about here, but okay. But the minimum order size, we have to order this. And we're going to have to order enough for probably 2,000 boards.
Yep.
And so I said, well, what can you do? Well, we can print it on, screen print it on, and then we can put metallic afterward. And you can send it to him and see if he likes it, because that's as close as we can get. So, of course, that's what we do. And then Jim gets all upset because it's, of course, not what he wanted.
It's lighter than
so
the red.
It came out like a pink.
Right.
And I try to explain it to him. And the story he put in your podcast is, and 2,000 were made. Well, no, they weren't, Jim, because we would see them being sold right now. They were never made.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim, sorry. But we ended up doing the colorways that we knew we had dialed with him.
Yeah.
And it was just not possible to get some of this stuff done in the amount of time. It just was not
totally
possible.
Makes sense.
And Jim was so funny though. He was always very specific, like, okay, make the girl look like this on the moon, it has to be more voluptuous or whatever. Okay, great,
Oh my God.
I ended up writing down these notes, and send the graphic guy, whatever, more voluptuous, whatever. All right, Jim, but it was hilarious. And this was the kind of funny stuff that it was back then. I talked a little bit about Windell's, but it was almost like that at Burton, where you're trying to I got to get a hold of Craig. Where is he? I don't know. You call the marketing guy. I don't know. We haven't talked to him in a month because he's out wherever. Craig, we got to get your graphic done, and then you'd finally get a hold of him, and you try to do as much as you can, either over the phone or whatever.
Send a fax. He's drawing little
stuff,
things.
Right? Yeah, make this thing, whatever. We did that late '68 for him. I don't know if you remember that.
I love that one.
And so it was just super quick because that was before the supermodel. That was his board.
Yep.
But these things were so difficult back then because it wasn't just you couldn't pick up the phone, you couldn't text anybody. It was always hilarious. You're chasing people down. Victoria, she had this board with the Freedom.
Yeah.
And it had this bird on it. I don't know if you remember that. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm chasing her down at Mount Hood, and she had the original. She's showing it to me. I'm like, okay, take this. Get this back and FedEx it quick to JDK so I can get this on a board. It was crazy stuff back then. So crazy. But it worked. We did it.
Okay, so you were there for this story, the inception of Burton 7.
There are other guys. There's that story has been replicated beforehand of other riders that were about to get signature boards.
Mm-hmm.
And we would come talk to them, okay, hey, what do you want to do? Well, what have you been riding? Where are you riding? What length have you been riding? What do you like about that board? And then all of a sudden you hear, well, he's not getting bored.
Yeah.
And we never asked. We didn't want to know.
Right.
It's we're not getting involved with money. We're not getting involved with that.
Right.
Marketing made their decisions for one reason or another, and we're not going to say a word. And so I was always very team oriented about that stuff. So JB, he was an amazing dude. So first of all, he was one of the first riders on Step In. And the reason he rode that binding is because he knew if he rides that board, he'll get a lot of coverage. The binding, a lot of coverage.
Yeah.
He also rode a supermodel for that same reason. And a lot of those things, I think I listened to Jason Ford before, and your podcast said, they said, don't ride Craig's board anymore. Ride this.
Yeah.
And
the ASIM, I think.
Yeah, the ASIM. And when I was in my day, I don't know if that was actually happening, but it was more. What more was happening was you won't get photos of Craig if you ride that board because we have so many
of Craig, right?
But if you're riding another board that needs support, you will get more coverage.
It's a smart move.
So that's what I was kind of felt was happening for sure.
Totally.
So, so I know for fact, so Jason was riding the supermodel and riding it in the park, which is not an intention.
Right.
But he said, no one's riding this board, and it's an awesome board. So if I ride it, I'm going to get a lot of coverage on it. And the same with the step-in. And he was a real big part of helping develop that product because he rode it a lot, right?
Yeah.
So he was the one that also was pushing on analog, which was clothing.
Yeah.
Because, our clothing was getting a little stale, and we really wanted to have more fun. He wanted to have more fun, and he's a fun dude, right? He's all
totally.
He's a, I'd say he's a wild card when it comes to many things.
Oh, totally.
So he had a lot of different ideas, and that was really cool. And we brought Trent and Troy Bush in at that time to help us with design.
For you, do you remember if they brought the name? Trent's claimed that he brought
analog?
the name. Yeah.
I was actually working with them at that time, and I just happened to be with those two guys when they were, and maybe one or two other Burton guys. I don't know who came up with the name, but it could have easily been those guys.
Yeah.
It could have also easily been Jason Brown. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, but that was a great project. 7 was kind of the next stage of that. Okay, we're going to go hard goods with it. And so, but what happened was 7 was going to be this really cool idea that Jason had, but then all of a sudden it was like, well, this is a good way to get all these other riders in, that aren't, and we don't need to do a signature board. It's kind of like having 7 signature boards in a way, like 7 dudes.
Yeah.
And so the idea completely morphed. This was not my doing. It was on the marketing side, and we just stayed out of it. Like, this is what they want to do. Marketing did not have a lot of say about product, but when it came to how it was marketed, they had a lot of say.
Yeah.
So that's how they wanted to do it. So I don't know what happened with the Jake thing. I wasn't involved with that. Obviously, it was a very, but indeed, I mean, that's kind of how I'd say he got upset with it. I mean, he got the rug pulled out of him, I think.
Yeah.
In my opinion, because he had an idea with it. He was very, very passionate about stuff, right? And
he's such an idea guy.
Yeah. So then when it went somewhere else, he was kind of going, that's not what I had. That's not my envision of it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I haven't talked to him in a long time. He's a great dude, man.
Yeah.
So hopefully you can get the pod going with him.
Yeah. I mean, we did one and I had to pull it. We fell apart, him and I.
Well, he's a complicated dude. Maybe you can get him on a better day or something like that.
Yeah. And also, a lot of it's my fault. When you're doing a podcast with a weekly deadline, I didn't leave enough time to allow him to shape it to what he wanted, which isn't fair. It's not cool. But yeah, I'm sure we'll come together later on at some point. But I really wanted to tell that story because I think if there's one person from that era that was really game changing in the way that he thought, he felt like Burton had a identity crisis or something.
Yeah,
it's
I think he did.
You're the biggest company in the world, but you're always talking about how these other small cool companies are doing cool shit. You're the coolest company. Why can't you own that? Why aren't we making analog? Why aren't we making something cool. Like,
Right.
we should be doing cool shit. We don't need JDK to tell us what this year's graphics are going to look like. Fucking talk to ourselves.
No, agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, but the thing is, I will say this, that JDK, they did really work with the riders a lot.
Good.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was, so the graphic process was very, very interesting. I mean, I'll just be real quick with it, but
Yeah.
you know, how things worked was, if it was a signature board, that rider could do whatever they wanted.
Yep.
And sometimes they asked for a little direction, and sometimes they just did it themselves. Sometimes they had an artist they like to work with, they did that. I want the graphic here. This is what I want. Okay, great. Then you had guys like Rippy who'd said, I kind of want this, but I want it to kind of look like this, and I want it to be this way, but maybe you guys can put like mother of pearl in here or something, or some other cool whatever. And that was always a little experimentation, whatever, try to, make something, see if he likes it, whatever. But then when it came to the board series, what I was always pushing for is, one, I wanted the graphics to be cohesive, like a family, but I wanted them to be different. I did not want the same, this is as a product manager, the same graphic on every board at all. So if you look at when I was doing the customs, they had a feel that went through the whole thing, but they were distinctly different graphics. If you look at the graphics, like the 55 was different than the 59, which is different than whatever, like the year of the turtle graphic and all that other stuff. And so that's what I was really pushing for with JDK. And JDK would always say, okay, great. Well, here's our family concept, or here's an idea. So for instance, that board I showed you earlier, that was from this whole kind of retro thing of, we're going to do, rip-offs of these, 70s movie posters slash TV shows. So we had Shaft, we had, that was Bonanza kind of thing, and all these others. And so like that was and they were very good at taking that and going, and that was their idea. So I said, hey, we have to do a family thing, and then that's how I want it, and that's how they did it. And then when it comes to working with team riders, like for instance with Terje and Mike Perillo, I was totally out of that one, because they said, we're going to work with Mike Perillo. I'm like, okay, go for it.
Sick.
And then when that graphic that he did,
the balance, unbelievable.
Yeah, right.
Unbelievable.
So for Jamil, I mean, that's probably the best snowboard graphic ever, to be honest. I really think, as far as presentation.
If I had to choose one, because it went across a series of boards,
yeah. So.
And just like the passion behind it, and I wasn't even a Burton guy at that time, but that it burned into my head.
Yeah, it resonated for sure.
Sick, yeah.
So another question I have is, I'm brand new to all these forums, and it's so funny to see these like vintage things, whatever.
Yeah.
And so one of the questions that someone had posed is, we had all these colorways of boards back in the 90s. I mean, ridiculous amount of colorways.
Ridiculous.
And so, their questions are, I'm not sure if, about the serial number, if this one's the same as this one. Here's the story with that. So we were in the mid 90s to 2000s making a lot of snowboards. And there was a risk, or we were afraid of having too many boards on the mountain, like that all looked the same. So we said, okay, we're going to have at least 4 colorways of every board. Okay.
Oh my God.
And so at the beginning of the process, we said, okay, we'll make 4 colorways, and we'd approve 4 different colorways with 4 different bases. But then in production, they were random. So, because we did not want to have to deal with, this distributor wants yellow, whatever. This distributor wants blue.
They had to be random.
Right. And so we said, we have no idea.
Yeah.
So we would just tell our factories, they made batches, I think 250. At every 250, you just change it up.
Yeah.
And the base was never attached to a top sheet. So you'd see, for instance, the turtle graphic has a purple one, but then the other one's a blue one, and the other one's a green one, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool, because now you look back at these collectors and they're going, I've got, 4 different ones, or da-da-da-da-da.
It was great at a shop, because people would be calling around at all the shops that had the different boards and say, "Oh, do you have a green top with the turtle?"
Right. It added excitement.
Yeah, it was exciting.
It really did.
It was rad.
And also if you ordered, if you got boards later, like, oh, I want to do a reorder, oh my God, these things came up. They're all fresh now. There's a whole
different
brand new
graphics,
colorway.
right? Yeah.
And so we did that all the way through my period, which was great. And then, obviously, I don't know whether it be consolidation, saving money, whatever, making it easier. Now that's all gone.
Well, maybe the runs got smaller. Who knows?
A little bit of everything.
Yeah. Talking with TK, and Taco.
I don't know him at all. No, never talked to him.
Really? He was after your time?
Or? Oh yeah. I think he got there 2004 or something, or 2002. I left.
Oh
in
yeah,
2000.
because he's been there about 25 years now, I think. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, he seems like a really nice guy.
Oh my God, he's the nicest. But he was telling me that they couldn't do. He didn't say they couldn't do. He said, yeah, we have one of every product in every size, not every colorway. He had to say it because it just...
Oh, it was impossible.
Could you imagine having one of it?
No.
Well, it's not even possible.
Oh,
it's not even possible.
Well, that was my job as well for a while. Not being the... But what I would do is make sure that he got one of everything.
Yeah.
For snowboards. Everyone made sure that he got one of everything.
Yeah.
But of course, yes, it was impossible with colorways. But one of the things we did, though, is that since everything was in-house, that's one of the reasons why we didn't do sublimation a lot, because we wanted to make sure that we had the flexibility to do these kind of fun things, like different colorways and everything like that. Once you do sublimation, it's always outside of house. So you'd have all the top sheets would come in, they'd all be printed already. Right. So it'd just be a mess.
Yeah.
And we could never, if you wanted to say, oh, let's start doing greens, it just wouldn't be possible. So, but yeah, there were fun days. Here's another fun project, which I don't know if anyone knows about, but I might as well say it. Let's put it out there. So probably 97, 96, I can't remember the year. So Jake had a bunch of back hills that he didn't finish, that were in the warehouse, and they were just raw wood, and they were on a pallet. And so this was obviously from the late 80s, right? Or mid, 87 or something. And he obviously was building them and stopped building them, had too much whatever, and they were just sitting there. Some of them were so warped, right? And so he comes to me and he says, I want you to finish all those.
Oh, wow.
And I said, all right, for what? He said, well, finish them and then we can give them away to the shops or whatever. So then we had to go, myself, I got another guy to help me, and we had to figure out, okay, so we redid, we went to JDK, redid the screens, but then had to find all those little parts, like the thumb screws, the rubber pieces, the rubber back. Jake wanted us to go to the Italian binding vendor at the time and make, remember those red bindings that they had with kind of that crazy half high back thing? And he goes, call them up. And of course they didn't have the mold anymore.
Right.
So we just went with the water ski bindings. But anyway, all those things were remade. They're authentic because they were made back in the day, but at the same time, they were also finished later.
Wild.
And so I don't know how many we finished. It was less than 1,000. I'm gonna guess it's a couple hundred. But a lot of them were a lot of those boards that you see in shops were actually, they're not remakes, but they were refinished or finished late finishers. Yeah. Yeah. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So I think I've seen one somewhere.
They're all blue
in one of those forums where they're like, that's not the right hardware for that era.
Yeah. That's why.
And they're like, it's a brand new board, but there's something fishy about it.
That's right.
There's something weird going on here because that's not a 85 era bolt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the story with that one.
That's interesting and awesome. Yeah.
There's so many funny stories like that. There's this graphic that we did for the 5-hole board. We did a twin with a 5-hole. I don't know if you ever seen that one.
The twin with the 5-hole? No.
So we had done the late model that year. That was a 94 or something like that, 93 or 94. And it had a martini base. I don't know if you ever seen that one.
Yeah, I know the martini base.
So we had our sales manager at the time, Schmitty, So we have all these old bindings, these 5-hole bindings. Can you just make a board? We just give them away.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we were doing the twins at the time, and I just took that old. He said I need them fast. So I just went in there, and I just told the guy, put a B there in the center, and then put a stripe across, like right in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's just black with just this B and a diagonal. And we did them like in a day, and we just made them all.
Oh my
and now
God.
I see on the damn thing, oh, these are like, if you can find these boards, they're so awesome. They're not in the catalog. They're
super rare,
whatever.
Right.
And here's another funny story. And so there's that one. But then I sent you that picture of that beautiful supermodel. And
Yes.
So one of the things is that as a product manager, I mean, working with snowboards is like working with paper or spreadsheets back in the day. We had, if you had to do a test of a new material or a new graphic, you'd get it made in the factory. So I had all these snowboards around my desk. I mean, probably I'm talking 30 like stacks of these things, and then like one of the office people come by. Oh, this is a fire hazard. You got to get rid of these things, So you thumb through which ones you're actually still need or whatever. So a lot of them were graphics tests, right? Let's say it was a new graphic material on the top, or it was a graphic test. You're going, oh, does this look good? Does this black one look good or whatever? Nah, it's not going to print well or whatever. Okay, whatever. So I had all these boards, and this was all the time. And so I didn't know this at the time because I we're so busy. So I would take these boards and I take them out of warranty, and the ones that were usable, they would give to the chill program, which is Learn to Ride.
Sick.
And the rest they would get rid of or whatever. I didn't know what they ever did with them.
Sure.
Now they're popping up on these things like, oh my God, one of a kind, whatever.
Totally.
That was sitting at my desk. I mean, I remember that test, and there were so many of them. Now, back in the day, we're not thinking about this stuff.
No.
Oh, I'm going to stash this and then maybe sell it later. It was not happening.
That happened to me big time in the LibTech snowboard collectors group because there was a deal between my old boss and Mike Olson. He would buy a stack of boards just clear out the LibTech materials. So it would be weird top sheets on top with weird bases, and we just called them special makeup boards. And some of them had like paint swooshes. It really looked like someone had been really lazy, right? Because they had like graphics at the time, but this just was like one paintbrush swoosh of like multicolors. And we got these boards for like $100, and we sold them for like $299. The cheapest boards. Like, and I even looking at the graphics, because there were stacks of them, I'd be like, oh, these things, a couple hundred of them. Just I can't wait for them to just be gone. They suck,
Right.
And they're like $2,000 or $3,000 a board now if you can find one.
Oh my God!
Because nobody knows what was this.
Right?
Was this, where did this come from, and why was it made?
Yeah.
It's like, it was made as a throwaway board
Crazy.
with one-off weird paintbrush graphic.
The one thing I wish I kept was the first year FL project. I don't know if you've ever heard of that board before.
Nuh-uh.
So that project, that was FL, stand for fucking light. And it was basically a technology vehicle. So the story on that one is, so Solomon had just entered the game, and with Brad Stewart and company, and some great riders, Jason Ford.
Jason was there, yeah.
And so they came with cap, right? And that was not really a first because LibTech and others were doing it, but there was a really, really nice board.
They were
right?
clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and they had done a very good job in skiing, as you probably know, years before.
Oh, totally.
So there was a concern of, hey, like, are they gonna clean our socks, so to speak, because of technology?
Right.
And I was making sure. I said, no, that's not happening, right? So we had just done the all that stuff with the custom, and we were making our The next year we came out with a Superfly 2, which was even lighter, more balsa strips. And we put it the carbon beam, we put carbon strips in there. And so we said, hey, let's just make the lightest board ever. And so what we did, and we were making our cores in-house there, so it was possible. So it was 100% balsa core.
Oh my God.
And the thing weighed nothing. It weighed absolutely nothing. But the thing is, balsa, if you lay it longitudinally, it is incredibly soft, right? So and that's why we only did 10 millimeter strips in Superfly 2. But we want to do the whole thing out of balsa. So we did it, we tried to do end grain, which means that it's going this way. And we had to sand the cores instead of cutting them. And even that, it was impossible. These things were like almost falling apart in your hands.
Yeah.
So Dave Dodge came up with an idea, plus or minus 45. So the angles of the grains were at 45 degrees. And it actually worked. And so we made these cores that were, they weighed nothing. It was crazy. But you had to handle them so gently, especially in the tips and tails, because they're
thin.
1.8 millimeter thick. So thin. So they would just snap off.
Oh my God.
Right? So, so we did that, and then we made a super light top sheet, thinner, super light base, sublimated, no inks, and then we brought it to trade shows, and it was unbelievable. It was so light. But the thing was, and this was our fault, is we gave it to team riders, and they were going huge in the half pipe with it, and so they were breaking,
snapping them.
And the biggest thing was that they were breaking because the Burton bindings at the time had a hard edge.
Yep.
And
I remember it.
They would come down and it would break.
Right at that, I know the break. There's a shape of that break.
Yes. And I was not in charge of I was later in charge of bindings, boots, and boards, but at that time it was just boards. And I said, we got to change the binding, of course. And it was like, well, we got all these tooling and whatever. Yeah. And I think we got to do something. But it ended up we had to make the board a lot beefier, and it was kind of unfortunate because if it was just a free ride board that you could ride, it was awesome. But of course, going huge in the pipe on that, it kind of killed the board over time.
Yeah.
Which is a kind of a bummer for me, because that was a real. If anyone has one, they're unbelievable. They're just so ridiculously light, and they still rode great.
Rad.
So, there's a lot of fun projects like that. I could probably talk for way too long there's so many back in the day archives. If anyone wants to find me on Facebook, you can find me or Instagram or whatever. But ultimately, it was a great experience working at Burton, and I don't take any of it lightly. I think I'm proud of everything. There was some stuff that we did that you kind of laugh at it now, but it was cool back then, and it was all about snowboarding, man. It's all good stuff.
Yeah. I was thinking on the way up here, like, what makes somebody a snowboarder? And I think it's changed. I think a snowboarder from our era means somebody who, when they went snowboarding, that was it. Now snowboarding is like an intricate part of their life for the rest of their life, right? Like, you make decisions like, okay, I'm not going to work at Polaroid anymore. I'm going somewhere else. And then I think a snowboarder just works wherever they are with whatever means they have to do snowboarding, right? Like, so if you live in a ski town, you get a job as a lifty. The barrier to entry there is low, you know what I mean? For a lot of us that grew up where there weren't great ski hills, we looked to see where there were better ones, and we moved there. And if you were aspiring to be, a world champion guy, then you move to a really good spot, and you've practiced every day. And, if you're Mark Fawcett, you create an academy, you go to a ski academy and start a program for them. And I don't think it means the same thing now. I just don't think it does. I don't think it changes your life. I think you fit in your snowboarding with your video game stuff and your Instagram scrolling, and I'm not taking the piss out of it. Dude, if we had that back then, I wouldn't be who I am, I don't think.
I think a lot of it's just that we were the generation that helped create and build a sport. And there were so many. It was so mind-blowing different.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all there was to it.
It's completely outside everything else.
That's
that
all there was
everybody
to it.
else
So
was
we were
doing.
lucky, and we're going to look back at it and I'm thankful. But nowadays, it's one option for a lot of people of lots of other things in the world.
Yeah, no, it was the same back then, because I remember my friend Brad Caster at the shop saying, I got too many sports, man. I play golf. I got a windsurf board. I've got all my hockey equipment, my snowboard gear. And I was like, why would you do that? None of those other things are snowboarding. Like, once you try snowboarding, that's it. For me, like you threw your skis in the garbage. I skateboarded religiously up until that point, and then I started looking for places to go snowboarding in the summer.
Right.
Once I tried it, I was like, I don't want this to stop. I'm gonna bring it to my friend's trampoline and put duct tape on the edges and go sandboarding and put trucks on the bottom of a snowboard and snap my tooth out getting the speed wobbles going to the biggest hill that I could find. Like, I guess there were people that just tried it and added it to the list of things that they did.
I don't know. I think a big part of it now is that we just need to accept that snowboarders, it's cool if you're out there riding.
Right, and it's not ours. That's the thing, is that when you talk about snowboarding now, and my opinion on it, I'm like, it's not mine anymore. I just go snowboarding myself, or I'll ride up here with my friends, and I have a great time. Nothing's changed about it for me. But when I'm looking around at the people in the lift line, I'm going, I don't get to say like, hey man, you snowboard? Cool, me too. Like, we're going to be best friends. It just doesn't exist anymore. It's not.
No, but at the same time, it's like, I 100% agree that it's snowboarding, to me, it's still just as fun. And that's all that's important. Yeah. And I think that, like I said before, I'm doing my best effort to reach out to people and talk to them.
Yeah, I think that's cool. All you can do, and I think we should keep doing that for sure. When I went to China with Ken Ock, I saw a different culture in snowboarding, and I got it. Like, I understand it. Just from a visual perspective. I mean, like, what they think is cool over there is not the same, and that's fucking awesome. Yeah. Like, and there's people there that are just crushing it. The coolest style. They ride super rad. I'm like, and it's not anything that I would have ever dreamed up. You know what I mean? But they own it, so that's dope. Nice. That's it. I mean, it's important. It is important. It's hard when you look at something that you care about so much, and it seems like it's not in great hands anymore. You know what I mean? Like that. I looked it up today. Who made the most money from snowboarding? It said Shaun White at $65 million or something. And then I said, did Jamie Salter make more than $65 million at snowboarding? And it was like, yeah, billions. And I'm like, so the guy who made the most from it, I mean, he loved making money, but he stayed true to snowboarding in some way, which is weird. He could have sold anything. Yeah. But he somehow, just the excitement of snowboarding got him too. I don't let that stuff bother me. I just like riding. Yeah, that's the bottom line. Is that, right? He doesn't ride, so. The fact that I'm still as stoked on it today as I was when I was, early 20s is pretty cool. That's wild, right? Like, that's the thing for me that sometimes I'm up in the mountains and I'm like, I can't believe I'm still doing this. The same hit that I was hitting 30 years ago, I'm going half as big or a quarter as big. I'm still having just as much fun. Absolutely. I love going out in groomers and carving. It's fun. Yeah. It just feels like surfing on snow to me still. Well, that's the thing. I never surfed, but I grew up wanting to surf. And then when I did surf, I was like, wow, snowboarding's better than surfing. It's a lot easier. Way easier. Less localism. Yeah. Yeah. And the learning curve is fast. And that's what I do. I do love, one of the things that I don't see as much is
I don't see as much snowboarders using the terrain like we used to.
Right.
You know, like I
Less
would rather
creativity. Right.
I would rather go slower and then doing these little side hits or these, you know, kind of riding the sides as opposed to just going straight all the time. I mean, they're having a great time. There's nothing wrong with it. But all I'm saying is that the way, maybe it's because how we came from wanting to maybe be surfing or just the flow style, you know, and that's why it's still great for me, because I'm still feeling that same stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's something lacking for a kid that's like super passionate about snowboarding. I quit my job. I moved to a mountain town. And you go, yeah, like Craig Kelly, you know, and they go, who's that? And you're like, wow, we have failed you.
Well, hopefully, I mean, Burton's 50th anniversary is coming up next year, so hopefully we'll see what they do. Hopefully they'll have some nice stuff to say about the legacy of the guys that helped build the brand.
That's a big thing. Yeah, 50. Damn, man. 50.
Unbelievable.
It's nuts.
Yes.
It's nuts. Yeah. Thanks for doing the show, man.
Right on,
I really
man. It's great.
Had a great time talking with you.
It was awesome.
We've been talking over the last few months, and I've been really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's great. I'm really glad you reached out, and to be honest, didn't even know all this stuff existed. Now that I've learned a little bit about it, I've been listening to all your older podcasts, and they're great.
Yeah, you know what? Thank you for that. Yeah, it's crazy that there's like a 0% chance we didn't meet. You know what I mean? Like, for sure we met at that. If you're running 91 camp.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't running it, but I was running around.
You were
running
for sure. Around at it. We either you probably filmed us.
Oh my God.
Or told us that we couldn't carve or
shout out to Tim Windell.
Shout out to Tim, man.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, man.
Thanks, dude.
Yep.
FNRad shout outs to Paul Fidrych. Thanks for doing the show, man. Stoked to maybe be getting some fresh snow this week. We need a miracle March. I can't believe it's already March. Thanks for continuing to listen to the FNRad Snowboard Podcast, presented by FlowJoy Water and brought to you by FNRad Productions.